Item is approval of the Finance Committee meeting minutes from last month. They're in the book. Hopefully folks have had a chance to see them. I would move that we approve the minutes. Anyone want to second it?
Second.
All right. Properly moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, comments? Rebuttals? No? All right. This is a voice, right? All right. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say right. Okay. I guess we're jumping right into hedging, everyone's favorite topic.
Good morning, everyone. We have in front of us the January 31, 2023 hedging report, and I'll just give you a couple comments as we work through this today. Fuel purchased for the month of January, $675,000. Hedging gain for that same period, approximately $170,000, yielding a net fuel cost for the month at $505,000. This is actually favorable to budget. And as we look towards the future, our hedges for 2023 are currently at a little over 2 million gallons, which is approximately 76% of our business need. We have had conversation with the individual that manages our hedging strategy at Linwood Capital, and the long and the short of it is based on the current market pricing. The belief is that we do not want to go out too far into the future, and so they are concentrating on opportunities that exist in the 12 to 15-month time period in terms of locking in. And so we understand that that is materially under our hedging policy in terms of the target being 90%, where we're currently at 83. But again, based on the current market dynamic, that is the recommendation from the company that manages this strategy. And that pretty much summarizes my comments on hedging.
Is that both because of the, I mean, are we concerned about the amount that we need to buy?
We are concerned about the fact that the current environment is relatively volatile from a pricing standpoint, and he's not confident that going out much beyond 12 to 15 months would yield continued opportunity in terms of cost to the agency.
Okay, even 12, I mean, 2023 is only 10 months now or something, right? So it's not, okay. They've been behind the curve on this for about 2 years. So I trust, but let's not, okay.
Yeah.
Are we required to accept that? Was there action there? No, no, okay.
Okay, moving on to the second part of my report out this morning, the financial summary for the month of January. We'll be talking through the revenue charts, also expense chart, giving you some comments around the key drivers that have affected our results, and then also making reference to the detailed profit and loss statement. Page 4 represents a 3-month look at our revenue sources, just giving some context to how things are changing over the last 90 days. We see in the month of January of 23, CPS revenue is coming back, given the fact that school was back in for pretty close to an entire month. And fare revenue over the last couple of months continues to trend upwards. So good news there. Turning to page 5, looking at our operating expense summary. Key takeaways here, the wages and benefits bucket continues to pretty much trend on plan and relatively constant with each other. And then we do see a little bit of opportunity that is showing up in the other bucket, which is primarily a function of timing of several expenses that are a part of that bucket. Turning to page 6. These are comments that are intended to give you an idea of the key drivers that have affected our results for the month of January. Total revenue came in at $17.3 million, which is favorable to budget, $530,000 or 3.2%. Total expense for the month at $11.3 million, which is favorable to budget, $1.6 million or 12.2%, yielding a surplus for the month of $6 million, which actually is favorable to budget, a little over $2 million. And as we think about one of the key components to driving our bottom line results, ridership is actually at 1 million, a little over 1 million for the month, which is favorable to budget, approximately 61,000 or 6.2%. And we'll hear more in the ridership report out about root cause for some of the opportunity that has manifested itself there. Looking at revenue for the month, again, key drivers, fare revenue at $155,000, which is favorable to budget. Non-transportation is favorable $404,000 to budget. Again, root cause, we are seeing continued opportunity that is a function of our investment portfolio results. And county sales tax, which we are noting is going to be on plan for the first 3 months of the year as we factor in the recognition of the 3-month lag in actual receipts. So for the first quarter of 2023, if you're looking at the detailed P&L, we'll be showing zero variance in the actual budgeted amount that was brought forth by the UC Economic Center. Turning our attention to expenses, wages and benefits, $648,000, favorable to budget, or 6.9%. We are in the process of recruiting for several positions, and so there's still opportunity that is showing up in the bottom line results there. Fuel and lubricants for the month is $164,000 favorable to budget, or 22.9%. Again, root cause there, primarily a function of our diesel fuel cost. Parts and supplies are favorable $82,000 to budget, or 11.4%, and we're seeing opportunity in both building maintenance and core charges. And then the last key component to our expense bucket, which is showing up for January's results, the all other bucket is $682,000 favorable to budget, or 33%. Key drivers there are a function of outside services and advertising and promotion, which we expect to roll into future periods. So that's really a function of timing. And so those are my comments on the financial results. Overall, we are coming out of the gate very strong in January, and we look forward to continued favorable operating results in the months to come.
The open positions, so your 7% open positions, are those things we're actually actively searching for or plan to fill later?
Well, when we build the budget, there is a conversation which takes place with the cost center managers around not only the position itself, but the dollar amount that's associated with the position and the timing of acquisition. And so you've got those three factors which can affect these numbers. As a general statement, I'm not aware of any strategy that we are slow walking the prospect of filling the positions. It's just a function of identifying the right candidate for the roles.
Okay. Taking longer to fill than
No question about it.
any strategic platforms? I mean, obviously we want operators because that's getting daily service. Any other big initiatives that are being slowed because of it?
There's a challenge of not just the people that we're hiring, but also people leaving the organization. We're in a very volatile situation in the country right now. People don't stay a long time. So we have the open positions that we're adding, as well as the positions that are becoming open along the way.
Right, but nothing you'd say, hey, we can't do Metro now because we don't have enough people.
No, nothing's going to stop our progress.
Write that down.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. There you go. Okay, sorry, Larry.
No problem. Any other questions? Any other questions or comments on the January operating results?
One thing jumped out at me, the ridership. Wow, January ridership up significantly. That's great. Significantly over November and December. But fare revenue for January is still below November.
So we know that there was a major change in the strategy that the agency has employed now to actually count ridership. And so that is the key driver to the difference between December and January results. There's a concept called APC, which is now effectively active in 100% of our fleet. That'd be a fair statement? Okay. And as a consequence of that, gives us more accurate information on actual ridership. And so that was a transition which literally just kicked in the month of January and accounts for the overwhelming difference in the December to January results.
So in theory, our ridership in November was higher than January. We can't prove that, right?
In December, yes. Well, in prior periods, that's correct. In
Okay.
theory, that's
Right, so
correct.
you didn't restate history because you don't really have an easy way to do it.
Right.
People do it all the time.
Really
but
quick,
yeah.
you guys, so everyone can hear you in the back. Please speak into the mic.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So what I'll also tell you is we were really aggressive this year in our expectation of increasing ridership, but we were not as aggressive in trending our revenue. We did trend our revenue higher than last year, but because we were so aggressive in our ridership, even though we expected about a 12% increase with the APC costs, our ridership is much higher than that 12% APC difference. We were not as aggressive with the revenue piece to protect the organization.
Right, so we did increase ridership, just not as much as it looks.
Yes, and this will probably be a trend we'll have to watch as we do year-over-year comparisons.
Yes,
Over the next year, 2, 3. Okay, great.
agreed. Any other questions or comments on the operating results for January? Okay. Moving on to our investment of funds report. Again, bringing good news to the organization for the month of January. Our overnight investments came in at approximately $97.5 million with a weighted average yield of 4.61%. Our securities and CD bucket is currently at $43.9 million with a weighted average yield of 1.98%. Cumulating those two figures together, we have a $141 million investment portfolio for Metro at this point, yielding 3.81%, which is an increase of 19 basis points from the prior period. We are, again, looking very closely as we chart some of our process improvement opportunities within the organization to more effectively manage the need for cash. Right now, I'm in the process with collaborating with our finance team to build mechanisms which will help us better understand when we need to draw cash. And so I expect actually these investment results to increase over the course of time in terms of yield and our ability to effectively distinguish between what should be in a security and CD versus overnight investments. Any comments on Metro? Okay.
I had asked, I happened to talk to Daryl about this. I would like us to sort of create that chart that says, here's where those funds are allocated to, right? I get nervous if folks see $140 million and say, oh my God, there's lots of money available. There is some money available, but a lot of it's spoken for already, right?
That's
so we got to
correct.
kind of make sure we have that conversation when we share this report.
Okay. Do you want me to give a voiceover on that, or?
You did last month. I just think it'd be
Okay.
worthwhile to have a chart that kind of gives you the high level so that
Okay.
folks remember it as we go forward.
Okay, well, we have the charge, just a matter of introducing that
Yeah.
into the presentation, so I'll make that effective for next month. Okay, looking at the infrastructure results for the month of January. Total in the portfolio approximately $49.3 million, and the overnight bucket with a weighted average yield of 4.53%. Securities and CD bucket has a total figure of about approximately $24.3 million with a weighted average yield of 2.64%. Cumulating together at $73.6 million for the month of January with a total weighted average yield of 3.73%, which is up approximately 16 basis points from the prior period. Any questions around the investment portfolio for the infrastructure fund?
I'm excited that we're starting to spend some money on projects, right? That we weren't for a long time, so that's great.
Okay,
This is all spoken for. Right?
Yes.
that's true. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Quick finance meeting this time.
I think we have a vote.
Oh, vote? I'm sorry, I haven't done this for a while. Let's vote. To accept the investment of funds report. I move that we accept the investment of funds report. Oh, that's not, we don't have to leave the building.
He has to leave the building.
It's on his phone.
Oh,
Exactly, so I got that. I'm not supposed to be even chairing this meeting, so we messed up right from the beginning. All right, I move that we accept the investment of funds report for both SORTA funds and the TIF.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
voice.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say right. I apologize for my miscarriage of justice there. Okay. What was next up, Barrett?
That's it.
No, next.
Air transit.
Okay. Can we go right in, or do we have to wait?
Nope, these are rolling meetings, so we can go right into the
All right,
next one.
we're gonna go into the paratransit. I don't think anybody's shown up since we did the pledge, have we?
You're good.
Okay. Robert, you wanna take this, or you want me to? Okay, Thanks. The first action item here is approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which was in July, where we did a review of the update of the action items on the regional coordination effort. I move that we accept the minutes from July.
I second.
Robert seconds. Probably moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, concern?
Voice.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say right. Okay, thanks. Let's get an update.
All right, so I tell you, we haven't had an update in a while, and I think you're gonna really enjoy this one. It's very, very strong, I feel, and it is extremely promising. And we're just going to just go ahead and kind of start it. I want you to first hear what I want to say, which is simply that the staff of SORTA is terrific. And our consultants are also terrific. And I think you will be impressed. I think you will give us the strong go-ahead and continue doing what we're doing. And we are doing fantastic things. So without further ado, you know, Helen, if you would take the position and lead us on to victory. Thank you so much.
Great.
Great
Thank
staff,
you.
great human beings.
Thanks, Robert.
And leadership is also good. Thank you.
That's you, Darren.
Great. Thank you, Robert, and good morning, everybody. So I just want to make sure that we have everybody on the same page. So before I turn it over to our consultant to talk about the progress on this major and critical initiative for our region, I'm going to go over a couple slides. Next slide, please. Thank you. So about a year and a half ago, we were tasked to look into improving the paratransit services in our region, which is the 8-county region, the OKI region, Northern Kentucky, Southeast Indiana, and Southwest Ohio as well. So we did do a pretty intensive and extensive study that included all 6 transit agencies in the region and as many as about 40 other paratransit providers in our region. The study, which took about 8-9 months, involved several meetings during those 9-month period, virtual as well as in-person. Surveys were also conducted with users just to try to understand their needs and how to improve paratransit across the entire region. And next slide, please. And so those were really a critical exercise and very important. They gave us so much input and insight in terms of what kind of issues the current paratransit users experience in traveling throughout the entire region, and what are the critical things that we need to address to improve mobility for the paratransit population. And based on all of that effort, which was led by our consultant, Liz Peak, next slide, please. 13 initiatives were agreed on that are probably the most critical to improve the paratransit mobility across our region. And those, in a nutshell, include having a single phone number to call to make reservations, no matter where you are in the region. So you don't have to remember multiple phones if you're trying to go from, let's say, Butler County to the airports, crossing three different jurisdictions. Equally important is to have a unified scheduling system. So if you're trying to reserve a paratransit trip, you don't have to call 3 agencies to make a trip from Butler County to the airport, but just call one number and make a single reservation. The ultimate goal really is to have a 1-seat trip from anywhere to anywhere within our region. That's obviously the ultimate goal, but it's going to take at least another 2 to 3 years to complete. There are so many other pieces that need to be put in place, such as the 2 I already mentioned, single phone number, unified scheduling, but also regional mobility, regional eligibility program to have in place. So if you're eligible in a particular jurisdiction, you're automatically eligible in the others, in that particular region. But also to share information and share resources among the different providers and agencies in this region. So really the premise of this effort is to improve the mobility of paratransit customers throughout the entire region. At the conclusion of this study, we went out, we put out an RFP, and we engaged a consultant, Liz Peak, who's going to go over the progress. And we started working on these 13 initiatives, trying to implement them piece by piece. And Liz Speak is going to give us an update on these initiatives. Liz?
Thank you, Liz. All right. So more than a year ago, this board adopted that plan. And we, move it down, okay, thanks. And just a year ago, you created this subcommittee and put Mr. Harris as our chair. And he has been leading this charge ever since. We're going to move quickly through here. If you go to the next slide. We created 2 subcommittees because our group was so large. We had so many partners coming to the table. We decided that we needed to kind of separate so that we have 2 different focuses. One, strictly on the customer and how we can help improve that customer experience. And the other side is that technology side. Is how we can use that technology to help coordinate those paratransit trips. Let's go to the next slide. We've held a lot of meetings. These meetings were held virtually and in person. Next slide, please. The Mobility Management Subcommittee is one of our important ones because it includes implementing the strategy that was ranked the highest when we prioritized those strategies, and that's to create a regional mobility management program. Next slide, please. Travel training is the foundation of mobility management. Even though mobility management is much more, travel training serves as that foundation. And as we brought the region together, we realized that Butler County and Tank had a really robust travel training program teaching people how to ride their service. There were also job and career coaches with Easter Seals and University of Cincinnati, many people that were just training their clients on how to ride transit and other services throughout the region. But one of the most important and spectacular parts of this travel training program and are already seeing achievement, Lisa may share with you later, but she has been working really hard on implementing a travel training program here at SORTA. This group has a vision, and our vision for travel training is that everyone who needs travel training will be able to obtain this training because they'll be able to easily identify where they can find it and afford it. And we're doing this by coordinating our mobility resources and identifying those gaps. Go ahead.
Is there a cost to the training? When you said it.
Yes, travel training, CAVI, the Cincinnati area Vision for Blind and Impaired.
Association with Blind and
Right,
Visually
right.
Impaired.
Right, and visually impaired.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. They do charge for travel training if you don't fall into their grant programs. So not only are there only travel training for those individuals with visual impairments, they are charging them as well. Yeah, these are things we're finding out in this study. But we want to be able to provide that at no cost and make sure that they get the most appropriate service for their needs. So that is why we're doing this mobility resource guide that talks to, like Mr. Harris today, would love to take the bus. And he continues to travel taking the bus. At some point, some people are not able to take the bus anymore, and that's when they lean on Lisa and her team to use Access. But there also comes a point where they can't use Access anymore. They need more of that door-through-door service. And that's where they would rely on agencies like the Council on Aging, who provides more of that door-through-door service. The resource guide will go help people through that process and let them know that there are more options. that they shouldn't depend on one service until they become trapped inside their homes, that there's other options. So Lorain County in Ohio has a similar resource guide that we're looking at for an example. So does Florida. We're trying to create a resource guide like that. We're also partnering with Ohio DOT, who has a Go Ohio Mobility website that they're revamping. Right now, it is strictly for carpool and vanpool, but they're opening it up for a statewide mobility resource. So instead of creating our own, we're going to piggyback on this statewide program. And they're also welcome to the idea of bringing Tank on board and even Indiana. We'll be excited to see that. Go ahead. So the technology subcommittee, which is Khalid alluded to quite a bit earlier, I think that's really his passion. He and Matt have really been working very hard on implementing several of these initiatives for the technology subcommittee and our technology goals. Go ahead and go to the next one. The first one is to procure and implement a unified scheduling system where all the agencies will be working using the same scheduling platform. It's already getting implemented here at Metro and Butler County. Our goal is to also open it up to more agencies. Next one. The one call platform that Khalid mentioned will allow those agencies that don't use the scheduling system, as well as those that are using the scheduling system, to communicate their trips with each other in real time. That grant has recently become available for SORTA, and we're working on implementing that right now with NeoRide. Next slide, please. The mobile fare application that you use, which is my favorite application on my phone, is the transit app. It is awesome, and you can use it right now to schedule your trips from Butler County to Hamilton County and into northern Kentucky. Several of the agencies that are working with us would like to use it for their trips. So we are moving forward with a survey to talk to their passengers and see if they really would use that transit app as well. Where the agencies are excited about it and want to participate, but we just need to make sure that their clients will use it too before we make that leap. So we're getting ready to roll that out real soon with our partners. Next slide. The sharing information and resources is probably one of the most important things to make sure that all these agencies that are participating in this coordination of paratransit trips all have the same information and can reduce that cost of providing service. So Matt's been working really hard and putting together a SharePoint site with your IT department that all of our partners can access to get information. We're loading it with information now. We are also going to be meeting at Lisa's Eligibility Center this afternoon with a lot of the travel trainers and our mobility managers to look at the Eligibility Center and how the SORTA does and Access does the eligibility, so we can start coordinating eligibility. And we can also use that Eligibility Center for travel training opportunities for people that may be intimidated on getting on that bus and learning how to use a bus when there's all kinds of people there around them and that the bus is trying to meet that schedule. So they can use that. That is a mock bus that was created last year, was constructed. They'll be able to use that for their travel training as well. And this is just something we've learned through our discussions. Next slide. There are several other strategies that we have identified that we are working on. Most of these strategies are being worked on through your staff here at SORTA, and we hope to have more movement on implementing those by the next time we speak. And do you have any questions? I know that was a lot. We were trying to get.
Team? Anybody else
Any
have
questions,
questions?
any comments?
You know I do. I just don't want to be the only one talking. So.
We are excited that we've been able to draw some federal money and to help move this project ahead as well.
Yeah. I guess my question is, this is a great goal, right? I'm a little concerned why we're still 3 years away from single seat. What would have to be true to make it happen in a year?
Technology. So we can all sit around the table as a group of friends and say, yes, this is what we want to do. And if we are calling each other, which has happened, Lisa has done that before, where she's called Tank and say, hey, can we coordinate this trip? In Butler County as well, can we coordinate this trip to help this person get across state lines or county lines? But when you have to pick up a phone and make that phone call, it's no longer seamless. If you can use technology to make it happen real quick, that's when it becomes sustainable, and you can do that for more and more people. So, and technology just takes a while to fund and to implement.
My hope is this won't take 3 years, but this is something that's very difficult. You're talking about taking all of the systems, not just the privates, but the public as well, getting everyone on the same system, coordinating eligibility across all of these different providers. This is not something that's going to happen quickly. My hope is that it doesn't take 3 years, but I don't want to overpromise as well. We are working very diligently to get this done as quickly as we can. The technology piece is going to be the first piece because everyone's got to dial into that same technology to be able to really connect all of the different providers. This is something that's going to be very difficult to get done, but we are working very hard at it.
And we're making baby steps throughout the whole. We have many successes as we go. And we want to celebrate those successes with you.
One of the points that I really am enjoying is the fact that the agencies are so committed and so involved and so willing to cross lines, reduce lines, redo lines to make this happen. We have the Hamilton County Developmental Disability Services, which is a really big group because they serve the county. And they also serve inter-county. They work with just about anyone who is willing to work with them, for both those folks who have physical disabilities as well as those who have cognitive disabilities. And that, I think, is extremely important because it gets into the emotional needs of people and the desire for those folks to get out and be part of the society that really is their society, is our society. And I'm just happy to be part of it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it get more and more exciting as we make things more and more real. And they're going to get that way. I'm really happy that we have a meeting this afternoon with some of our supporters and some of the folks who use the system and need the system. And you saw, what was that, a month ago or 2 months ago, Robert Shoemake, many of y'all know him. He's a person who has dual disabilities. He's blind, he's visually impaired, and he has physical disabilities. But he gets out.
He was the guy.
And he is the bravest man I know, because when you can't see and you're going to go anyway, and you can't move on your own, you need a motorized wheelchair, and you go anyway, I have to take my hat off to him and say, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, and we will do whatever we need to do in order to make it happen. And I really just thank SORTA's membership, its staff, its board, and its supporters for what we're doing. And our just beautiful, strongly committed consultants that we have around us, as well as our staff. So back into your hands, sir. I've talked enough. Just keep on keeping on, and we'll make it happen. God bless you. Bye-bye.
And each of the entities are going to have to change the way they do almost everything. This is not something that's going to be very easily done. So you're talking about us, the private carriers. We're almost going to have to change the way we do everything. We don't think it's going to take 3 years. We don't think it's going to take 3 years to do anything to have the one seat, one app. It's going to take some time, but we'll have some small wins along the way where things will improve along the way. But to get the program fully rolled out to where everybody's on the exact same platform, there's one certification process, we're all using the same technology, it is going to take some time because all of our agencies are going to have to change the way we do everything.
Because we still have gaps in the county coverage too, right? Because it's
No
only
question.
following, so I think there's, you know,
Yes.
it pains, so thank you for everything we're doing, right? I think it's great. Pains me that we still have people that are getting on one bus to a next bus to a next bus, and that there's people that can't take advantage of any of it. So I would love to see us go faster. We'll keep talking about how we might do that. So,
Can I just ask a question? It's probably been answered 20 times and I've just missed it. Do we provide the service for patients who are at a doctor's office, need to go to another appointment, so they have to use the service to get to the other appointment, then may sit and wait for many, many minutes, hours, for the transportation to come back to take them back to, and a good example is Drake. They have to leave Drake, go to a doctor, they use our paratransit, and then they don't stay with them, they leave them, and then have to come back. Is that still in our purview?
Yes.
Okay, have we worked on that? Because
What
some
is
of the
that?
concerns I
Having to-
get come from those kinds of situations where people have had to use the transportation, they have their doctor's appointment, and then they have to sit and wait for a long time before it comes back to retrieve them.
We have not looked at waiting for a rider at their stop before we go on because we're trying to help as many people as we can move around our region. So we haven't looked at a vehicle just sitting for a half an hour or an hour waiting on a patient. We've not looked at that.
I'm not asking, as I shared with one lady who I spoke with, I'm not expecting that vehicle to sit there and wait for half an hour to an hour while someone's, but there's got to be a better way to coordinate that return trip. And you have them, once they're out of the doctor's office, they're just sitting in the lobby. And there's nobody that comes and notify them that the vehicle's out there. So this lady had an experience. So as you look at that, I think there's other intricacies. While we may have a good system navigating throughout the jurisdiction, you still have those other situations that denounce what we're doing in the macro sense. There is that minor, that also causes confusion. So I'm just sharing that. That has been concerning. This particular call came from Drake.
I understand. In the Planning and Ops Committee, Lisa's actually going to be talking about some new technology for access, which kind of addresses exactly
But if they
what
even
you're talking
had a
about.
button or a buzzer or something to notify, I'm finished, and that would be helpful. So, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll have some conversation
I
around
just
that.
want to
No,
ask.
thank
Yeah,
you. Mhm.
that's.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work that you're doing and the committee. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and we will definitely not only continue, but we will take more looks, because that really is an issue.
That is an issue.
It's an issue. People feel like they're stranded. The Cancer
Yes.
Justice Network that we're working with, they know those issues.
Yes.
Now, how do we solve them? Well, fortunately, we are meeting. And through that, we hope to really have that solution begin to be more and
You'd
more
be amazed at how
present.
many people that's happened to.
Oh, I know,
Okay.
because I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And I'm
designed.
happy.
I've been crying.
Well,
You
yes.
feel left deserted.
I just want to jump in. This is one of the hardest things in paratransit work,
Yes.
that return trip.
Yes.
And as we expand and collaborate, like there will be particular challenges at the edges and finding that efficiency. And it's really important for that and core stuff. But when you change the system, making sure we're able to address that. And we
Right.
certainly don't want to leave anyone stranded or even sitting too long.
Thank
So
you.
I think it's a great point that you always have to focus on in para. Yeah.
Metro Now will also help that if they're staying within that same zone. Metro Now will also help that as well. But we'll have some additional
No, it reminds me
conversation.
of and I'm not gonna belabor this, but it reminds me of we speak about that door-to-door service almost. You know, we talk about that. And yet you have some people who have been left behind, and the system that they're in, that whole medical big system is not gonna be looking out for them. You know, it's gonna make that call, come get them, but it's not gonna make that call, bring them back.
Understand.
Dan?
As a rookie, I got just one simple question. That'll be my only question of the day. But
Thanks.
first, thanks, Mr. Harris, for the work you've done on the committee, and Ms. Peak, that was a great presentation. I've got one logistical question. So how do we easily access the information you talked about with the various agencies and providers for the different type levels of service? What's the best way to access that?
Are you referring to that SharePoint site?
I don't know.
I think he's
I'm
saying,
referring to through the door service, to the door service, and the various aspects like
Okay.
of the different providers. You mentioned the Council on Aging,
Right.
going through the door, and some of these things that Ms. Robbins is talking about. Like, are we the agency that should be providing that at this point? Will that be changing down the road? And how do people access that?
yeah, some of that's up to us, I guess. But I think what he's asking is, how do you know who provides what services
Right,
today? Right.
right. And we are currently working on that Go Ohio commute platform, which we are hoping that it will go live by the end of the summer. So that's going to happen really soon, and you'll see that. And we will work with your marketing department to make sure that everybody finds out about this opportunity and all the different resources that are available to them. We're also working on the resource guide. That is one of the things that we're doing today, this afternoon, is collecting all that information from all the different providers, trying to come up with a consistent look and the additional background information. So hopefully too, by the end of summer, we'll have that guide out to everyone.
So, Board Member Driehaus, what I'd like to say is I'd like to thank our chair and this board, because that question you asked, nobody has the answer to that. There are so many different providers that do so many things differently. So the disabled community, when it's time for them to actually travel, they have all of those same questions. Should I call this agency, a private agency? Should I call Metro? So that's the process that we're trying to fix by having a central certification, one number that you call, one app that you use. What we're talking about doing is very difficult because there are so many different providers. And how does that person know which provider they should be using, know what's best for them? And we're trying to solve for that whole thing. And it's what the board has challenged us to do. We will get it done. We will attempt to do it in much less than 3 years, but this is difficult.
I think you were just asking right now, how would you know, right? Is there a central place where some of that data exists? I guess the answer is not
No,
yet.
no.
Yeah, not today.
No,
I mean,
One would think
which is a
there was.
problem.
yeah, that's the social service dilemma of the world. I mean, that's what we
Yeah.
have always dealt with.
And we've tasked ourselves to solve that problem.
And I think, part of this, the genesis of this, right, was what should our role in all this be?
Right.
And we can't take over everything that everyone does. We're not staffed to do it appropriately, have the right skill sets, but understanding it to make it easy for folks to take advantage of the services that are out there. Right?
That was a very
Yeah.
good question.
Thank you. Okay. That was adjourned. Over to you. Thanks,
All
Robert.
right. Thanks, everybody, and let's keep this moving. If you do need coffee or anything, the coffee is very good. It's right over there. But let's go right into the, I think, 18, 20, 40 items on planning and ops.
Okay.
So it means we're getting stuff done, and I love that. First, any questions, concerns about the minutes If not, anybody, or I'll move approval of the minutes from January 17th.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say left. Any abstentions? All right, so let's head right into the 6 briefing items, and then we'll get to the action items. John, you want to give us the good news?
My pleasure. Thank you. Good morning.
You.
As we start each of these, let's start with our most recent Employee of the Month winners for their recognition. Adrian, please.
All right, good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so bringing up the end of the year Employee of the Year Silver Wheel Award winners. We've got first Chris Senior. Chris is a 15-year employee at Bond Hill. He's also a union steward with the organization and is being recognized by his supervisor for his knowledge of the job and his work participation and help that he often gives to others in similar roles. Then we have Terry Andrews. Terry is a 14-year employee. She works in the project management department as a project management specialist and was being recognized for her work recently with one of many projects, which was Blink, and she led the project and the leadership of how we move forward with that project, and they wanted to recognize her for that. Next, we have 17-year Queensgate maintenance employee Dave Oding. Dave is being recognized for his manager for always being willing to go above and beyond, and specifically on New Year's Eve, he had plans, but he changed his plans and stayed over and worked overnight to help him out. They had some shortages they were dealing with, and so they wanted to recognize his efforts and his help and willingness to do that. Then we have a 16-year operator employee from Bond Hill, Michael Johnson. Michael's being recognized by his manager for his excellent work performance. He has 96.4% on-time performance, 0 absences, 0 customer service complaints, and 0 discipline. So congratulations
What is
to
his
Michael.
route number, if you don't mind?
Say it again. I'll find that out. Next, we have Terry Barnett. Terry actually works in the HR department. Terry's been with us 17 years, and she's our benefits and DER, which stands for Drug Enforcement Representative with Metro. So she helps us to manage not just open enrollment and benefits, but help to manage our drug and alcohol program for our employees. And is being recognized for going above and beyond during open enrollment and the absence of a benefits and comp manager. Next, we have, and finally, Amber Jennings. Amber is an operator at Queensgate, but Amber, who's a 7-year employee, is actually being recognized for her work as a sub clerk. So Amber often subs for us in the clerk's office when we have some shortages, and she's one of the most knowledgeable and diligent employees on the sub side with helping us to get to work out and making sure operators know and are aware of what it is they have to do and where they need to be next. So congratulations to all of those winners.
Thank you, Adrian. And keep the applause coming for the story here on this next slide. This really is something special. We wished best wishes on retirement to 2 members of the Brown family, Eunice Brown and her husband, Reggie Brown. I think you could debate which one is the better half given their years of service to the organization. Reggie, a 36-year operator, the top seniority operator at Queensgate. You may recall in recent years was a recipient of the 2 Million Mile Award for driving 30 years without a preventable accident. That's only part of how reliable Reggie has been over the years in terms of his attendance, on-time performance, and customer service. Eunice Brown retired as the senior division manager in Queensgate Transportation. She started as a driver. So think of the career that Eunice has built through supervision, training, and on into management. They represent a passion for what we do that really is unmatched. And if you know Eunice, she has a personality as big as this room, a heart as well. Her passion for what we do will certainly be missed. And to think of their dedication as a couple to what we do and to who we serve really, really is truly special. It's been our honor to work with them, and we wish them both nothing but the best.
Absolutely.
Now, side note to those,
Really?
yeah, why not? Yeah, keep coming. That you saw Dave Olding recognized on previous slides. His father, Dave Olding Sr., works here and also brings that same passion to his work as a maintenance technician. Other good news, we're happy to welcome James Hubbard as our new Director of Labor Relations. James joins us with a number of years of experience, most significantly with the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. James is a practicing attorney. Thank you. The world in Metro needs more attorneys.
The world in general, John. Not just-
I totally agree with you guys.
See? No clap for that. James he's already hard at work. He'd be here for introduction, but he's assisting outside counsel in arbitration as we speak. So he's off to a great start. I'd like to welcome Brandy to share some more good news.
Good morning. And before I jump in, I want to ask Troy Miller to stand and welcome him. He is the newest member of Metro's External Affairs team. So we are, as I'm sure you all know, Troy most recently served as the president of our ATU, Local 627, and he will now be serving as our new government affairs liaison. So he will be assisting me in strengthening the relationships with our local, state, and federal representatives, making sure that all of Metro's top priorities are the top of their priorities. So we are sure that the continued partnership that we have experienced with Troy over the years will continue greatly and pay off dividends in his new role. So thank you, Troy, and welcome. So emails for everyone. We most recently rolled out organizational emails for all employees at all levels. So now we're able to communicate with our operators and our maintenance staff via email to ensure that they have all the Metro news right at their fingertips. And this is just one part of our ongoing efforts to strengthen our communication culture here, to ensure everyone has access to that information. In addition to email, they will also be able to utilize the full Microsoft 365 suite, so tools like the Word document, Excel, and PowerPoint. So this is certainly going to be a game changer with ensuring how we are able to communicate and engage with our entire workforce. BRT community workshops. I know we've been talking a lot about BRT, and we're super excited to further engage with our community at large on this new service that will be coming out. And so the next step is to have workshops. There are 4 that are scheduled currently, one today, in fact, this evening, to talk with our public about what they would like to see as we design this new service. So think about where stops are located, what amenities they have, what features, and also what other development opportunities exist along these corridors. So certainly look for more information about these meetings and others that are happening throughout. And anyone who wants to participate, we're asking that you go to the website metrobrtstudy.com and you can register. It is a very engaging session. We are also serving a meal, so we definitely want to make sure that we have an accurate count and know who will be participating with us.
What are the time?
They are different times, so the information is on that website. Just for the space on the slide, I couldn't put everything in, but all that information will be on the Metro BRT study site, and I can follow up with you as well, Gwen, with the exact times.
Sure.
Blake wants to know what's being served, he said. Can I bring the kids?
We most recently this month celebrated Ohio Love Transit Week, February 5th through 11th, and every year is a great opportunity for us to engage with our writers, and then we ask them to share with us why they love Metro. And as you probably all know, transportation does a great deal to move our communities throughout Ohio. And Daryl took the opportunity to go to the State House, and he met with several state representatives to talk about our transit needs, the projects that we have coming up, and just to ensure that they are aware and are equipped to help support us in those funding requests that we'll be sending their way shortly as we continue to improve our service. And on that note, State Representative Baker came to visit us here at Metro not too long ago. She is a new state representative, and she came in and met with our leadership team to learn more about what we're doing, our Reinventing Metro plan, what our needs are, and how she could support us. She also took the time to go through our Queensgate facility and toured our Maintenance and Operations Center. And as you can imagine, she was blown away to learn that all that we do behind the scenes, from building our buses to repairing them and how we serve our community each and every day. So she, as you can see here from her tweet, she was completely impressed by the great work of Cincinnati Metro, leading the way in public transit. And she can certainly be counted on as an advocate for what we're doing here. And that is our news. Here's a great picture of our newest class of operators who you probably have already seen out on the road. I know Adrienne and her team are doing a great job of recruiting and retaining, and we're so excited to have such a large group of talented individuals who are out on the road serving our community each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's the news.
That's the news.
All right. Thank you very much. Congratulations to all those people. I could talk about all those great people. Let's keep it moving. And the next is this really interesting branding research. Looking forward to this presentation.
All right, I'm back. So as we prepare to embark on our 50th anniversary year this August and approaching the halfway mark of the implementation of our Reinventing Metro plan, we believe that now was the perfect opportunity for us to pause and take stock of our brand equity and how we show up in the community. And so to that regard, we have consulted with Good Marketing, who are here today to walk you through this presentation, to help us collect feedback from our community, our stakeholders, and whether you ride the bus or not, how does Metro show up in our community? And thank you to many of you who participated in those studies with our consultants as they collected that feedback. So today they're going to share their recommendations of how we can increase and improve upon our brand, both for now and in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chelsea Roberts with Good Marketing.
Thanks, Brandy. It's nice to see everyone here today. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our presentation and all the work that we've put in the past 5 months. So I was planning on having 2 of my associates here today with me. It's just me. I'll do my best to answer any questions that might come up at the end of the presentation. It should be about 10 minutes. As Brandy said, I'm with Good Marketing. We're up in Lansing, Michigan. We're a certified women-owned, disability-owned small business, but we have a very deep knowledge of public sector marketing. So we work a lot with state of Michigan clients, transportation agencies, and we have done some successful work with SORTA Metro in the past, a couple videos in 2021, and some of the other public agencies in Ohio. So let's talk a little bit about the project. We did quite a few different things in the past 5 months. A community survey, which netted over 600 responses from both riders and non-riders. We did a landscape analysis that includes research into what other transit agencies are doing, 31 one-on-one interviews that I did all of. So it's nice to see a lot of you in person and see some folks that I talked to. We did a comprehensive brand audit. I'm sorry, there's a little bit something formatting going on there, but it says comprehensive brand audit of all your assets, robust data interpretation, detailed written reporting that everyone has access to, and then an interim presentation and dialogue with your board, or excuse me, with your executive leadership team. So it's nice to see everyone here as well. Let's talk about our high-level interview findings. Across the board, we were very impressed. We found that today, folks in the community, everyone sitting at the leadership table and the board of trustees see Metro as an organization that is professional, steady, and inclusive. So it was really wonderful to just see that strong consensus. And when we look towards the future, we found that everyone is pretty much on the same page that the Metro of tomorrow should be trusted, modern, and accomplished. And so some of these things are things that marketing can assist with getting you to that place. The other top line finding from the interviews would be confidence from your community despite challenges. And so again, this was just because I did all the interviews, I can just picture and hear people saying to me, yes, things have been difficult. There have been some things that have been hard in the past couple of years. COVID, right? There's been some PR things that have happened. But we know that Metro is listening, and we know that they are on the right track. So some of these are that you are an economic driver in the community, some things around the schools, and then safety and reliability came up as well. Let's look at the next slide and talk about some community survey insights. So this is a lot to look at. If I was clicking, I would just show you one at a time, but we'll try to go through, try to work with me from left to right. Don't get overwhelmed. So this survey, again, I said it's got 650 responses. About half of those folks are riders, half are non-riders, and we've broken it out by color to show that the darkest blue is people who use all of their transportation for Metro. And then as you go to the right, the lighter is people who use it most of their transportation, some, or occasionally, or never. So let's work from left to right across the board. Really blown away that Metro is an important part of the community no matter how much you use the bus. Again, Metro is working to improve its services. More than 3/4 of most of these respondents say, yes, I know that Metro is working to improve its service. Really, one of the great data points is this one in the middle. We asked respondents, yes or no. I'm excited about the future of public transportation in Cincinnati, and 80% of people who use your service for all of their transportation are excited. And even 2/3 of people who never use transportation are still excited. Metro is on the right track. Again, very strong numbers there. When we get over to the right, this is where when we're talking about rebranding, public perception, and where opportunities lie, we do see a little bit of a dip in those numbers. Only about 50% of folks saying, I hear mostly good things about Metro. So this is where we have opportunities to improve.
Does that mean they hear bad things or they don't hear anything? What's the interpretation?
The survey is designed to take a very high-level snapshot, that gut instinct that marketing and brand is really good at addressing. And so the question was, yes or no,
Okay.
I hear mostly good things about Metro.
So I don't know the opposite of that, right?
Yes, exactly. We can go to the next slide. So from this process, survey data, one-on-one interviews, landscape analysis, we've developed some high-level brand goals that we feel would be very beneficial for your organization to organize yourselves around in terms of your marketing. Your number one goal is going to be to increase trust. Some of that has to do with reliability. Some of that is not something that a marketing consultant can do, but a lot of it has to do with consistency in messaging. So that's really what you're going to see in the next couple of slides, is how we can get clarity and consistency, and that can help build trust as you're making other service improvements. Your other brand goals would be to increase ridership. So this is something where marketing can play a role. We're talking about shifting culture. We're talking about promoting your products. And how do we do that? By demonstrating not only the value to your community, but your values as an organization. Demonstrating how you drive the economy, how you're forward-thinking in environmentalism, and how you want to get to that trusted and modern place. Let's go to the next slide. So we will look at our recommendations for Metro. We recommend a brand refresh. What does that mean? A brand refresh will organize your brand for clarity and increase trust. A brand refresh will also demonstrate your commitment to a modernized Metro, and it uses strategic messaging to build on that community excitement that we saw in the data about the future of public transit in Hamilton County. Let's go to the next slide. Why a refresh and not a full-scale rebrand? Why don't we want to pull out the carpet and shake it out and put everything back together again? There's really not enough evidence to support doing something that drastic. We don't want to change the name of the organization. Metro is exceptionally valued by your community. We saw that in the data, 92%. In those interviews, we heard people saying again and again, I care about Metro and they care about me. But refreshing is a true evolution of the values that you have and changes to your products and services. So it is a good time to make some changes to the brand. We're talking about colors, logo, messaging that goes out in the community. And finally, with the passing of issue 7 and the fact that you are a public agency, doing a full-scale rebrand at this time might be perceived as a bit extravagant or reflecting a desire to fundamentally break with the past. There's really no need to do that. You guys have an amazing organization, you have a lot of great things going, and there's a lot of momentum. So we recommend the refresh. We're talking here about public-facing communications. I do wish someone had prepped me that I would be saying this in a room where SORTA is emblazoned on the wall so beautifully. But when we're talking about what goes out in the community, it's got to be Metro, Metro, Metro. Don't talk about SORTA. SORTA is not, rolling out any updates. SORTA is not building anything new. It's Metro. So this is this is sort of deceptively simple, but if we keep Metro and take SORTA off of those public-facing communications, it will help consolidate your brand to improve clarity and trust. Now, this graphic is going to make a little more sense when we look at the next slide, but this is the foundation of what we would call a brand system or a brand family, where you are the Metro brand, and regardless of whether we're talking about the bus, Metro Now, BRT, Access, it doesn't matter. We want all of those products to have the same goodwill that people have towards Metro right now, that same 80% of value. So let's look at the next slide, and that will help to kind of show what that brand is about. Refreshing means updating your logo, refreshing it with an eye towards the future. This is MARTA's brand system. You can see that they have a central logo, they have a logo that goes on their bus, they have an iteration or just an update of the expression for their access service, and then they have something called Reach. This is a really nice way to see how something like BRT or something with a more flashy name might work with a logo. So this is a recommendation, a strong recommendation from us. And then let's look at the next slide, adopting a tagline. So a tagline does a lot of work for a brand. It's not a campaign. It doesn't change. You would want it for the next 3 to 5 years, and it can help the community really understand, why are we changing our brand? Where are we going in the future? What's next for us? So these are just a couple of examples. Again, we're a research firm. It wasn't our job to come up with that tagline, but we want to just give some examples of other agencies. Let's go to the next slide. Rollout and timing. So expected transition period. This is your 50th year anniversary. We recommend doing some public engagement leading up to the summer or fall to ensure a positive reception. We do want people to understand why you're updating a new logo, what other updates are coming, and anticipate unveiling it towards the end of 2023. And you can take that time, as I already said, to message to the public about the refresh brand. Thank you again, and thanks so much for everyone taking the time to speak with us as we did this research project. I would be happy to take any questions at this point.
I don't always have to go first. I know one of the discussions we've had, if we talk about regional transportation,
Yes.
right, is whether you'd have some sort of tie-in of branding across the agencies, particularly if we start cooperating with them more. Was there any consideration of that, or this is very much Hamilton County Metro?
Yes, we did hear that come up in this type of room. We didn't hear it come up as much, obviously, in the public.
Right.
I would say that if you have in a strategic plan or you have things where you're rolling towards, like, yes, we are in collaboration with folks, we are connecting our services.
That's our new tagline.
Then I would say that the tagline could be very helpful in that, and that is also because taglines go on just a couple of assets. They're not like a logo where you have to put it on everything and then it's a lot of work to change it. A tagline's usually online, on social media. You could actually work with the other agencies, and you might want to work with them and develop a tagline together. That could be kind of a way to increase the regionality. That's one suggestion.
Yeah.
But I would say that in the next step of actually refreshing your brand, you would definitely want to work in the regionality or think about that with the tagline.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you all so much.
And next is paratransit.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Lisa Olick, the Director of Accessible Services out at our Access Division. And just wanted to do a little background on what Access is. We are the shared ride public transportation that provides service to people in our community who have disabilities. Under the law, under the ADA, Metro fixed route should really be the primary means of transportation for everyone, including people with disabilities. Right now, we are serving people who have disabilities that are unable to use regular fixed route Metro buses for all of their trips. And eligibility is determined by someone's inability to board, ride, or exit a fixed route bus. They have an impairment-related condition that prevents them from traveling to and from the bus stop, or a customer is unable to complete their trip on a fixed route bus due to a combination of their disability and the structural environment. For example, curb cuts, sidewalks, things like that. Next. So just a little bit of background on origin to destination transportation. The ADA really likes us to frame it this way for people so that they can actually get from their point of origin to their destination. And sometimes this does include providing door-to-door service. Access is currently offering door-to-door service for anyone who requests it. Customers can request door-to-door during their eligibility assessment, when scheduling their reservations, at the time of pickup or drop-off, or really any time by calling us. The ADA requirements state that the transportation that we provide really should be origin to destination rather than specifically saying curb to curb or door to door. And that's because for some individuals or locations, it might be better if door to door is provided, while curb to curb might be a better option in other instances. So anyone requiring additional assistance can always require or travel with a PCA, and that's a personal care attendant. And that PCA is someone who is designated to assist someone with their living skills, including travel. PCAs ride for free on Access when accompanying eligible passengers. Now, there are a few exceptions to when door-to-door would be able to be provided. That might be when a driver would have to leave passengers on board who pose a higher risk than those customers that are being assisted to the door. Many of our customers have intellectual disabilities or other conditions which make observation vital. Vehicles that are out of sight does increase vulnerability as the bus continues to run in order to maintain contact with dispatch and to power the onboard surveillance. For example, someone wandering off the bus or getting injured, potential of someone stealing the vehicle. Drivers do not have to provide services that exceed door to door. For example, going beyond the doorway to assist someone in and out of a building. That might be pushing a button on an elevator or going into a hospital, to a doctor's office. And drivers really should never take actions that would be clearly unsafe for themselves, the passenger, or the vehicle. So some of the concerns that we would have when offering door-to-door for everyone would be, while Access is public transportation, there is still an expectation that supervision and a level of custody is maintained for our customers. There's also risk of injury to the customer and or the driver, in inclement weather, if there are steps or sidewalks that are in disrepair. There could be an inability to provide one-on-one assistance if multiple people were traveling to one location, such as group trips to an agency such as Goodwill or Easter Seals. And, some customers just aren't ready to give up their independence and would not want that additional assistance. Some of the operational impacts that door-to-door for all customers could have on access would be additional time that we would need. So right now we ask that customers give advance notice during their assessment or while making reservations whenever possible. In addition to previously stated issues, we can expect that there'd be delays in passenger pickups, lengthier trips for our customers, additional hours of service, the need for additional drivers, mechanics, vehicles, and support staff, and an increase in administrative cost, parts, and supplies. So we had a lot of conversation about paratransit earlier, and I heard that Ms. Robinson expressed some concerns. A few things that are coming down the pike for access, which are really exciting and something new for our customers and the users on our end. We're targeting June to have Pass be available on web so that customers can make, take, and modify their trips on a computer or an app. It'll also have a notifications, which might resolve some of the issues that we're hearing where customers don't know that vehicles are out there waiting for them. We also have an interactive voice system and what's called an imminent arrival. That notifies the customer within 5 or 7 minutes of the bus arriving. So that'll help reduce the need for people to stand outside, or for someone with a visual impairment who can't see when the bus arrives, they can still stay in the building or in their home while waiting for the vehicles. So the last thing that's going to be coming, and we're all really excited about, is an easy wallet where customers can load some funds onto their account, and each time they take a trip, that amount is deducted from their easy wallet, and that'll help cut down on people having to purchase tickets or handle money and other things that make it inconvenient right now. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you.
I have a couple. So.
Okay. I didn't think I was going to get out of here without a few.
In one, just because it came up earlier around the eligibility requirements, and that we all sort of do it differently. Is there an ADA standard that's used? Like, why would a Butler County versus us versus another county not have the same eligibility tests? If that makes sense.
So it depends a lot on the community. Some places are more rural, and so their requirements are a little less than what ours might be. Generally, we all adhere to what the requirements of the ADA are. We're testing for those 3 areas that are the ability to get to and from the bus stop, the ability to board, exit, and travel independently, those kinds of things. So that is what we all apply. Some people are just a little maybe looser with how they apply those standards.
So is that the concern, that some people would use it that should? I mean, I don't know why we couldn't just today say if anybody gives you eligibility, we all give you eligibility.
Well, we do that now for visitors. That's something that we've always offered, and that's another requirement of the ADA.
Yeah.
But all of our, some people just do eligibility off of paper or what a doctor's recommendation. And way back before I started in the very early part of my career, we were giving eligibility to anybody who applied, or the Council on Aging was doing the assessment. And those people really aren't bus riders. They don't know what it takes to ride a bus, what it takes to get to the bus stop, how to signal the driver. So people who weren't familiar with the skills that were necessary were making those determinations, and that's why we decided to take it in-house. The same thing applies to the other agencies. While they may be different, our processes are very similar.
Yeah.
And I think we're all in alignment with having one agency to be able to do that for the entire region. It's a bit inconvenient where it is now for everybody to get there. We did talk to Tank years ago about being able to offer that for them. It's just a matter of, I think, logistics right now. Some of it is expense because there's a cost associated to that.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry for the long
staff resource. That's okay.
I think I fear this is one of these areas where the agencies get so worried about somebody taking it that shouldn't.
Oh.
That you end up with people that should get it that don't. Like, it's sort of like voting, I guess. But Thank you. That helps.
I also would like to mention that we told the committee that we would have the new app up and running. It would take about a year, and I promise you guys it wouldn't take a year, and it will not take a year. We're excited that we'll have that app up and running by the middle of this year.
All right. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Lisa.
Now I'm off to the next paratransit meeting.
All right, go get them.
Thank you. All right. Now we have the service quality and ridership. Andy, are you taking that?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. We're going to provide this will be a team presentation here. Some of my colleagues will be joining me in providing this update. And really what we want to talk about is an update to our strategic plan for 2023. And specifically, we're going to talk about the service quality and ridership component of that plan. You see on the agenda here, we're going to work through the context that we're operating in right now. We'll talk about updates to the framework that are slightly different than what you've seen in the past. We're going to talk about the initiatives that we hope are going to drive change in 2023, and also how we're going to track those initiatives, how we're going to measure success, and hold ourselves accountable to the plan. The context for 2023, as you all know, you've been to many board meetings and you've seen that Metro is in a growth mode, right? Since the passage of Issue 7 and all of the things that have happened with reinventing Metro plan, there have been a lot of ribbon cuttings, right? A lot of new initiatives, a very aggressive and visionary approach that this board has taken to transit in this region, and that's incredible. All the while, some of the post-COVID challenges to our business and to our industry remain, right? Many agencies across the country have cut service because of some of the labor challenges that they've seen in getting the work out and being reliable to their customers. So that continues. We thought that maybe the labor market was starting to shift a little bit into our favor, and you can see some of the headlines here from January. One of the strongest job months ever and one of the lowest unemployment rates ever. So our challenges in this area remain, and what we talked about as a team is that we have to be strategic in how we approach these challenges in 2023. Because when we have labor challenges, that results in some service quality or reliability issues. We miss trips, and that is that's another cut to, it might be a small cut, but it's a cut to our long-term growth potential as an agency, right? Every time we have reliability challenges, it weakens our promise to our customer. Not to mention there are real world impacts to folks that are trying to get from point A to point B at a specific time. So all of that being said, what we know is the low-hanging fruit has been harvested, right? The big things have been done. Historic contract with our labor partner in the ATU, so on and so forth. So what we have to do now is be a little bit more surgical. We have to find the little places and the tweaks within our business to try to drive key factors to make sure we can get ourselves to a reliability and a quality that we want to see. So how are we doing this? We're breaking the strategic plan, if you will, into 3 buckets. I'm going to start with this middle bucket, which is the Reinventing Metro plan. These are the things that you're very well aware of, you've been hearing for the last 2 years. Phase 1 service improvements, 24-hour service, bus service into larger parts of Hamilton County, beginning the study of BRT, implementing transit centers. Those are things that you have heard, right? Those things continue, and you'll continue to see these projects and initiatives come to this board for review and approval. The 2 other buckets that we're going to focus on, in addition, the top is service quality and ridership. And what that means is what I talked about in the first few slides. We have a critical need to improve our reliability. It's the foundation of future investment. So things that may have happened in the background here at Metro that might not seem board level or seem strategic, if you will, are being elevated within the organization because service quality has become a strategic imperative for our operation, if that makes sense, right? And then kind of behind the scenes, but equally important, we continue the work that's been done over the last 2 years in becoming a better organization. And that's the third bucket. Things like succession planning and some of the financial tools and strategies that Larry and his team are building are falling into this third bucket. So a lot of this has been happening. This is just a reshaping and reframing of how we're going to be organized in the next 12 months. The way we're going to approach this problem is we're going to define some what success looks like from a measurable perspective. We're going to track that data. We're going to create a list of initiatives that we think are going to drive improvements in the outcomes, and then we're going to iterate, right? If something is working and providing a positive result, we'll do more of it. If it's not working, we'll do less of it. Just really quickly, I thought it would be important to pause before we jump into the actual initiatives and give a little perspective, right? I'm new to the organization. I've been in the organization about 4 months. I've been in the industry about 20 years, right? And I've been through many strategic planning processes. One of the things that I learned through this process, whenever you work on trying to solve a problem, we have a huge advantage, right? We all agree what the problem is, and we all have strong alignment around what our goals should be. We know where we are, and we know as a team where we want to be. And that's a huge first step, and it's going to set us up for success down the road. Another very important part, as we get into this discussion, we're going to see that we're going to challenge ourselves to be better. But in the context of knowing that this organization is far exceeding the performance of our peers. We'll talk about this in the ridership report. Matt will cover some data. All across the country, almost every system in this country has cut service. They've reduced the level of frequencies they're providing to their community, and they're struggling to return anywhere near to pre-pandemic ridership levels. We are way ahead of that curve. So that's the context under which we're challenging ourselves to be better. With that said, I think as an organization, we have room to be a more data-driven organization. We have a lot of new people. We have a lot of new systems that are helping us operate. There's a big opportunity for us to pull more of that data out in a strategic way, set goals, assess causes, track performance, so on and so forth. So this plan is not amazingly complicated. It is our first step as a team to hang a framework, grow and mature and improve our data reporting and performance as we move forward. I guess questions about any of that before I jump into the goals.
Can I just?
Yes.
First of all, my whole career, we do strategic planning. And my whole career is sits on the shelf. I mean,
It's a great point.
that's the name of the game. And what you've done, I compliment you because what you've done is made it more realistic. And it's something that enhances the ability to work. What I hope I see is this is internal. I hope I see the external, because when you talk about effectiveness and culture change, I hope that affects how we handle the community. Because right now, there are people, right now, the majority of our constituent base happen to be African American or people of color. How do we move beyond that so that it is not perceived for those that are not? I mean, you have diverse communities within our route, and they won't use the service because they think it's oriented to one culture. So I'm hoping that somewhere in this plan that we're really looking at diversity and how we really move beyond the stereotypic thinking about our services. So that needs to be, within the internal discussion.
You are absolutely correct. And when we talk about how COVID has changed the world, and to really understand who our new customer is, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
As most of public transportation has been the people using it to get from home to work and back, as the country has changed, our customer has changed and their need for public transportation has changed. So who is our new customer? And we are spending a lot of time on exactly what you're talking about. And it's one of the reasons that we are being successful while the rest of the country is at about 65% of pre-pandemic ridership, and we're at about 85% of pre-pandemic ridership, is because we're focusing on more than just to and from work. We're focusing on entertainment. We're focusing on shopping, not just peak hours, but off-peak hours. We're doing exactly the same, exactly that thing.
I think it's not just not who it is, but who it could or should be as well, right?
That's exactly right.
If it Thank you, Craig. That's it. Because if we talk about an economic downswing and upswing, downswing, you would think that, especially with the gas prices, you would think that it's, I'm going to say ecumenical. You know, it's all over. Everybody should be saying, hey, I got to figure out how to do this and save my gas money. And it shouldn't be was for them and not me.
And I'm sure you've seen our commercials and heard us on the radio. It is all targeted at a very diverse population.
And that's why I was hoping that I see that discussion internally.
Yes.
And that the whole culture of the organization is focused on the whole group. Everybody.
It's one of the reasons we're having the success. Brandy's group is doing a very, very good job of that.
Thank you.
Thanks. So if we talk about some of the goals that we have, if you look at this slide, I mean, these are really going to be the top 10 metrics that are going to drive our work over the next 12 months. The baseline slide in the blue, that's basically where our performance, where we ended at the end of calendar 22. We ended with a weekday average, an average weekday of missing 95 trips. That's about 95% reliability, between 95 and 97% reliability, depending upon the day, which is pretty high reliability, but that is 95, promises not kept, right? So we want to see by the end of calendar 23, our goal is to be at 0. We want to be around 99.5% reliable for our customers. The ridership goal, we ended 22 at 9.8 million. The budget model and what we've talked about before has our goal of being around 12.3 million. Fixed route operators, again, we continue to hire and we want to attract and also retain operators. We're at 483, we want to be at 520. That's been our number for the last couple of years, but with turnover, it's been hard to keep that.
Hey, on ridership, Blake wants to know if that baseline is apples to apples or if it's the 12%.
That baseline is based on the budget, which is not apples to apples. It's a GFI number from 2022 and an APC number for 2023, and then some growth on top of that. Is that correct, Larry?
Correct.
Okay.
So we were aggressive on top of the APC number.
Yeah, and we will go into that in more detail in the ridership report for sure.
Great.
But with respect to this plan, we use the exact same number that was built into the budget. So there's consistency amongst the numbers that you're going to see as a board. Yes, we need more bus operators. Everybody knows that, right? But we also need better attendance from our existing set of operators and what supports are we providing there. And then we also, if we can reduce turnover from those that we do hire, a little movement in each of these areas can have a big result, right? So this is the kind of level of granularity we're looking at. There are no big ribbons to cut in this part of the plan. This is the plan where we're looking at the details and trying to push measures by just a little bit to get better outcomes. We have a stated goal of on-time performance that we want to achieve. We want to improve the reliability of our fleet and safety. Preventable accidents per 100,000 miles is the metric we use. We want to see continued improvement in that area. Safety always has to be part of the plan. And then a couple other metrics that are more specific targeted projects with respect to our marketing and ridership development efforts.
And before you move on, Andy, with the conversation with our board chair, we're going to add some customer satisfaction goals in here as well.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so.
Question.
Yes.
Will we be briefed on this progress on a monthly basis?
It's a great question. We'll get there. We'll talk about how we plan to report out and welcome your feedback on that. So how did we, what are we going to do? What are the things that we plan to do as an organization? Again, most of this is behind the scenes work. We have about 29 initiatives that we have listed. They kind of group themselves into these 4 categories, but obviously there's overlap here. If you improve some of your workforce metrics, that's going to reduce the number of missed trips that you have on the system. As you improve on-time performance, you can improve ridership, so on and so forth. But in general, we're in these 4 buckets. What you're going to see on the list, you're going to see 2 things. One, you're going to see initiatives that are action-oriented, that are specific changes that we're going to make internally that will be done by a date certain. You'll also see areas where we don't have the data to assess root cause. So one of the initiatives may be to begin collecting data in that area, right? It's a little bit of both. So as we turn to the next page and you look at the 4 buckets here. We've bucketed them around missed trips, workforce, ridership, on-time performance, safety, and cleanliness. We're not going to go into all 29 initiatives. And like I mentioned before, no giant ribbon cuttings in this. It's really getting better as an organization at what we do on a day-to-day basis. With that being said, I'm going to pass it around to some of my colleagues so we can talk about, you can get a sense of the flavor of some of the things that we're going to do. So in the first bucket, I'm going to turn it to John to talk a little bit about some of our initiatives around service interruption.
I have a brief question real quick.
Yes,
Andy.
ma'am.
With these 4 categories, is there sort of a percentage of attention or focus that's being given?
So I'll talk a little bit about how we plan to implement these initiatives. So each initiative has a staff lead, somebody within the organization who's responsible for carrying out that initiative, and they have a date upon which we expect that initiative to be done. They're spread pretty equally throughout the organization. A lot of these are operations and maintenance issues. Some are communications, some are HR. And we'll show you kind of the tools that we're going to use to track and manage that.
But I'm saying in terms of, that makes sense. I get
Okay.
that. I
Okay.
understand that. But I'm saying, are you seeing any one area that needs more work? So for me, and I could be completely off base, but what I always hear is this reliability on drivers and making sure they're on time and the turnover is reduced, all that. A lot of it, to me, seems like it's more on workforce, just personally.
Yes.
So then in
you are-
turn, does that mean that there's, 40% of our attention going to help support maybe that department lead in order to achieve the goal for that initiative in that regard? Or is it just not looked at like that?
So what we believe we have to do, we're at a point where the largest employer in the world hasn't figured this out. And if you watch what's happening across the country, Walmart, Kroger's, Meijer, they're all shrinking their span. So they're not open 24 hours a day anymore. And they shifted those resources to earlier. You have other stores like Macy's and some of the big box stores that they are shrinking their footprint. So they don't have as many stores, not because those stores weren't making money, but because they had to shift those resources to other stores. So they're closing stores. Where we're not shrinking our footprint, we're not shrinking our span, we're expanding our span, we're expanding our footprint. We're doing the opposite here of what the rest of the country is doing. We're at the point now, because of this workforce challenge the country has, is we don't think there's one big initiative that's going to solve this problem. We really have to drill down and come up with 20 different initiatives to just move the needle a little bit in each one of those. And as we begin to move that needle in each one of these initiatives, we're really going to be watching to see where the successes are. And over the course of this year, we're going to really pay a lot of attention to this initiative is really working, put more resources behind this one. This one isn't working real well. Let's do something different here. So we're going to figure that out as we move. No one in the country so far has figured this out. We're going to. We don't know how exactly yet, but we're coming up with some new initiatives. We're trying some new things, and we'll figure out as we move through these new initiatives what's really working.
I appreciate that strategy. Okay, I'm happy now. Thank you.
I got a quick question about access. Are the numbers of access included in these metrics?
So we have a set of definitions for each of these top 10 metrics that we will track. The missed trips is not. The missed trips is fixed route transit.
Okay.
The ridership number is overall. And you can see total fixed route operators. So fixed route are the big buses. So that's not included in those workforce numbers are fixed route, not access. So really, I think the only other, the safety is both access and fixed route. So it's really just the ridership and the safety metric that I believe are the access.
And when you see the ridership report, one of the things you're going to notice is that we're not having the challenge with access operators that we're having with big bus operators because they don't need CDLs. So the service quality and access hasn't deteriorated as bad as the big bus. As a matter of fact, our service quality with access is really good.
Yep. Great. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And Andy, as Andy mentioned, these are detailed, targeted, almost surgical attempts to put in strategic initiatives, very specific, maybe small in scope, but we believe if we add up a bunch of these things, we'll have a large impact as a whole. And these are just a few of the things we're going to get off the ground right away. This is not the exhaustive list. This is not the full list for year 23, not by any stretch. But one thing we're going to do is suspend the use of operators in substitute roles. That's a way of saying operators fill other capacities where there are vacancies, maybe in street supervision or dispatch, and even fare collection. These are operations where we can shift labor, we can shift some time to driving. There's plenty of work available, plenty of overtime. We certainly have plenty of operators raising their hand to go above and beyond. This just gets them more targeted in terms of driving, in terms of some of these, instead of some of these other substitute roles. Our supervisors, so street supervisors you see out on the street, we're going to get a lot more out of this group as well. So they'll not only be in charge of supervising the service as it's being performed, but then monitoring and coaching operators on their performance as their supervisor. So each supervisor will have specific lists of operators assigned to them. We'll call that their focus group. But then within that focus group, you don't need strong coaching, constant contact with all of your operators. We're going to coach them to target, through detailed performance reports, those that have the largest area for improvement in either their attendance or their on-time performance. Maybe it's newer operators that are just struggling to get the hang of their route or driving a bus, et cetera. So very specific targeted exercises from the supervisors to help out with the operators that need the most help. And then as we talk about this culture shift and building an entire team, almost to Chelsea's question, that the percentage share of the work, everybody's focus is on these initiatives. Well, let's publish our KPIs in a better way that the operators can see and all employees can see, well, how well are we doing, right? It's hard to get to a goal without understanding where you are, where you want to get, seeing the improvement along the way, but seeing that in a very real fashion. So posting our KPIs at the garages is something we already do. We're going to do that in a much more effective way to get some of that team awareness and team aspect around these organizational goals.
Thank you, John. I think the next couple initiatives in the area of workforce, Adrian's going to speak to.
All right. Good morning again. So initiative around workforce. I do want to give some context around the recruiting efforts for last year. You know, last year we did a lot of recruiting. I applaud the team that hired 171 operators last year, which is historically the highest number of operators we've ever hired. But as Andy has mentioned, our opportunities exist around our retention efforts, around ensuring we've got reduced absenteeism. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about a little bit here today. Relative to a couple of the initiatives, we're going to add some additional resources to ensure that we're able to make some inroads there. So specifically around leave oversight, and I've given some context to this in the past around FMLA and sick leave and the use of and the high percentages of absenteeism we have around FMLA usage. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to add some additional resources for our FMLA and sick leave processing, because I will tell you it's highly administrative. We're calling operators, we're following up with managers, we're sending reports, we're sending information and notifying and emailing employees about their leave and whether sick, whether it's FMLA. So it is one person right now doing that for 1,000 employees, 80% of which are on our bargaining unit side, which is where we see a lot of our use of FMLA, specifically with our operators. So we're going to add some additional resources there to ensure we're able to partner closer with the managers and get them the information they need, conversely with the employee, to make sure they understand their current status around their leave and when they're due back and the return to work, training and different things that they have to do in order to get back in and get back to work. And so then additionally, we're going to partner with management much more closely, because right now, they're there on the ground trying to manage the employees, and oftentimes they may or may not know why the employee's out, which they don't need to know why they're out, but they need to know that they're out on sick or FMLA, and for how long they'll be out and when we can anticipate them being back. So we're going to partner closely with them so they can also help to manage that relationship and the issues that we see around leave with the employees and help to build on that accountability a little bit more.
Can I ask a question? Do they have to use up their personal, when they take FMLA, do they use up their time first?
So FMLA, they can just take based upon
Right, I mean, they don't have to tell you why, but
Right.
do they have to use their personal time?
No, FMLA, they can use whenever. If they've got
I mean, they can use, they can use whatever they want until it's the end, and if they're still out longer, they still are allowed to be out longer.
Right, so if they exceed their FMLA usage, they often go with what we call short-term disability. After they have, and that runs conversely with FMLA, but in terms of how they're paid, is that what you're speaking of?
In other words, if I have 10 days vacation or personal time, I have to use that up before I get to
No, if you,
a short-term disability.
well, you have to, for FMLA, you use, once your pay is exceeded or you're exhausted, then you go to short-term disability, right? But you don't have to use all of your vacation up prior to that, because your FMLA, you are using your sick time as needed, right? If you have it available to you. You can also take FMLA because it's not a paid benefit without pay. So you can be out on FMLA and not be paid.
Okay, so there is that piece in there that doesn't make it conducive, for them to just do it.
Right.
Okay.
That's
what I
exactly
wanted
correct.
to
Wait, I'm not sure that's true. I mean, you can take unpaid FMLA before you use up all your vacation or other things, right?
Well, no, you utilize all of your sick time first, right?
You have to, or they choose to?
They have to. So they apply for the sick leave if they have it. If they don't have it, they can still take the FMLA, right? Then once they've exhausted all of their sick time, though, they go to short-term disability, which is managed third
This is a
party.
complicated, so you can take 1 hour of sick time?
Yeah.
You can, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a disadvantage to the
What?
company, to the organization.
Not sick time.
No, FMLA.
The concern I have would be the managers not truly understanding FLLA. And that was one of our big issues, even in
Right,
the organization,
right.
is the managers are not really understanding. They think they're just off and they could be off for life if that's what they want.
And how do we, so we don't pay first day sick?
No.
So if I take FMLA, how do I
Well,
exhaust
you
my sick
wouldn't
time?
get paid if you don't have it, depending on your absenteeism. Again, that's gonna drive whether or not you get paid day 1, or day 2 or day 4, right?
That's exactly.
But I mean, so it's not a pay thing, all because the first time isn't, so.
Right? So I mean, the only concern is if management needs to,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
the supervisor, whatever, they need to really understand it.
So one of the things we do with management, we provide them a report twice a week that tells them FMLA hours available to X number of employees, right? So you got employees that are out or they take intermittent leave. So they don't, and not for a whole day, they could be out for a couple hours or call in for a couple hours, intermittent FMLA. They get a report twice a week that tells them what the usage has been for every employee in that division or area, whether it's operations or maintenance. And then we're partnering with them on a consistent basis as we get reports that people are coming back or they're due to be back. They're due to return back because they have to, if they've been out more than 30 days, go through return to work physical and things like that. So there's a close partnership with management so that they know the status of the employees.
The law is so intricate.
Yes.
And that's the training I'm talking about. Do they really understand the law? Because there can be abuses to the law when they don't understand it.
Right, right. And we help to manage that closely in terms of the FMLA, we being HR and the FMLA vendor we use. And we don't have the managers manage that part of it because they're not gonna know the intricacies of it. We get the information as to the person is approved for leave and for how long. So we do manage that and work closely with management to ensure they are well informed.
So one of the things we're really going to focus on is not the long-term, but some of the short-term FMLA usage that we have. And if we can move the needle on some of that short-term FMLA, it'll make a big dent in our problem.
So next is implementation of exit interviews and or stay interviews. So my team currently attempts to reach out to individuals as we're leaving. We call current newer employees once they've started every 30, 60, 90 days to say, how's it going? Are you having any challenges, or is there anything we can help you with? But what we found is that between the hires and the turnover that we have, it is quite a few people that we're trying to attempt to reach. Additionally, what we know about exit interviews and people being able to more willing to come forward or forthcoming with information is they typically are more comfortable doing that if it's not with an individual within the organization, but with a third party per se, or someone that doesn't know them, and it's also anonymous. So one of the things we're going to do is secure some resources to help us with the outreach, because oftentimes you don't get them on that first try when you try to call them. Sometimes they give you notice that they're leaving, sometimes they don't. So with this additional resource, they will put some concerted effort around repeat calls and attempts to reach the person, be it by phone, be it by email, and if possible, even by text, to try to find out why they left, so that we can begin to gain some information about the what it is that caused them to leave, the environment, or some things we can change, do better or different in our existing programs and processes that maybe we're able to retain the next person who left because, and again, I don't know the reasons, but because, the difficulty getting to work or hours or what have you. So we want to be able to gather that data and use that data to our advantage to change some of the things we do in our approaches and programs so that we're able to hopefully hit and increase our retention efforts.
Yeah.
So that's,
Thank you.
Any other questions on that?
We can spend all day on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, so, and I think to that point, maybe what we'll do is we'll keep moving here. There are a couple more slides. What you're getting the sense of is the type of initiatives we're talking about. These are somewhat in the weeds initiatives that we're trying to push in every possible area to move the needle. So, the next two slides, we'll talk a little bit about ridership and some of the marketing things we're trying to do to push the needle. You'll hear about these initiatives as we go through our normal course of business. And then the last action slide is just a couple of the initiatives around OTP safety and cleanliness. So really, let's talk about next steps and actions. This list of 29 initiatives I mentioned is going to be tracked by lead, by implementation date, and so on and so forth. We're also partnering with it a one-page metrics dashboard, if you will, so we can track our progress on a monthly basis. What we hope to do is report quarterly to the board on two things. One, progress on the initiatives and any successes from those initiatives we can bring as a one-off to the board to talk about. But also you can see how we're doing with respect to getting all of these things done. And then also our data dashboard. How are we doing on those top 10 metrics? I guess 10 plus metrics. And reporting to those in a very transparent way so you can see what things are working and where we need to catch up. So in that dashboard on the next page, next slide, you will see the way in which we're organizing this data. For each of these metrics, we have a 12-month runway, if you will, to where we were at the end of 22 to where we want to be at the end of 23. With each month, we'll plot our real performance and as it relates to our stated goal and whether we're ahead, on, or behind that goal. On the next slide, I'll show you a perfect example of what this will look like with each metric. This is average daily missed trips. In January, our actual result was 80 for the month as an average, where our target was 95. So we are ahead of goal with respect to January. But you can see if we're still doing 80 in March, we'll be behind goal, right? We want to taper our way toward 0. And to do that, we have to adjust that metric every quarter so we can get there. What we'll do is, like I said, on a quarterly basis, this dot will turn into a line so you can see how we're projecting over time. We'll bring that to you. And I mean, that's part of the value that this board has to us is, are we looking at every place? Are we thinking about these things in the right way? And can we make adjustments to be more effective? So the next few slides just kind of show you those metrics over the next 12 months and how we're doing. So this one-page dashboard will be presented on a quarterly basis. With that, I think that concludes my portion of the presentation, unless there are any questions.
So I love all this, right? I love the details. I think all of them combine into a great organization. I like the ladder slides, right? That are bringing it up so that we can see it more efficiently. I would say take it up even one more notch too and say, all right, we have 10 initiatives, we're hitting on 4, or we're hitting on 9, and start there. If we're hitting 10 out of 10, we're feeling good, right? But if we're hitting 4 out of 10, all right, let's get into this.
Yep.
So that's the key, bringing all this stuff up so we can know where to spend our attention.
And we'll be looking for where the successes are and the initiatives that aren't being successful, and we'll be making changes to those initiatives. This year's about blocking and tackling. It's about service quality.
Yes. And I look forward, and I hope the rest of the board does to tracking all of these things and following up on them. I know I will be looking at ridership all year long, and it is going to be a tricky, both mathematically and operationally, to get that, but we have to hit those growth numbers. All right.
If you just add 12% to last year, then at least gives you a start.
All right.
Yeah, I also think this is great, and it's really neat to see so many measurable, specific goals that we'll be tracking. I also appreciate that you're committed to bringing the whole organization along with this plan so that everybody is bought into the success.
I appreciate that. And just one other point to be made with respect to your comment. Most of these initiatives were generated within departments, right? So as a leadership team, we went from department to department and asked questions, people that are closest to the work. What are the things that you wish you could do to help drive this metric? And that's why these initiatives are kind of granular, right? Because they're coming from folks that are doing the work every day, whether they're in the division at Queensgate or whether they're sitting in HR trying to manage, some of our leave policies. These are the things that came up out of that process. And then so they're also, those are the folks that are going to execute these things too. So I agree with you completely, and I think that'll be our challenge, is to keep us all moving together, because the team is very large. There are 30 people who are now, as part of this team, tracking and implementing these efforts.
And I'd like to just say again, the rest of the country has given up. The rest of the country is cutting service. They're cutting service. They're cutting service. We're doing just the opposite. We're adding services. We're adding modes of transportation. We're adding frequency. We're adding footprint. We're doing things differently, and hopefully the board sees we're committed to making this work.
Speaking of adding, Matt, you want to take us quickly through the ridership?
Absolutely.
Oh, there's another question? I'm sorry, my bad.
Super apologize my quick leaving. I have children. But back to the workforce. I know I'm just gonna probably keep on hitting on it because it's so imperative. So I see all these quantitative. I mean, we can turn all this stuff into quantitative data right here, but there's a whole lot of qualitative data and insights and observations that can happen, especially under workforce. How we're treating our folks, how we're talking to them, how safe do they feel, or how this or that. You fill in the blank. Are we looking or taking any of that into account? Because it exists, and there's so much that's not said, when it comes to folks feeling maybe unappreciated, or, I'm coming in, I have to go and get my FMLA, I've got all these issues at home, my ride situation has changed. Yeah, you have a policy, but how we discuss that policy and how we make someone feel that they can access it or make them feel good about their situation or the situation that we're providing as a fix, I think means a lot as well. Are we looking at that? And where does that fall in this?
It's the reason we're doing the interviews, not just
Exit
for the
surveys
people
and
that left, but for the people that stay as well.
Okay.
Because all of that data will come out of those interviews that we're doing, and we'll learn the things that we need to do more of. We'll learn the things that we need to do less of. We'll learn the things we need to change. We don't have that data today, but by doing the interviews for the people that stay as well as the people that leave. We're hoping to gather all of that information up and then make some initiatives to make sure we address those.
Okay, so we're not gonna have to be married to this if the data says otherwise. Like, we have to flank, okay.
That's correct. Our goal is to win.
And there was just one more addition to that. There was an employee satisfaction survey done within the last 12 months. And some of these initiatives are a result of what we learned in that 2022 employee satisfaction survey. Exactly to your point. What are the things that employees want to see? Email for All is a perfect example of what came out of asking our employees through that survey about communication. So I think that's a lot of these are the outcome of other processes that are in play.
So we'll head right into the ridership report. For those of you who have not met me, my name is Matt Mormon. I'm the Senior Manager of Service Planning and Scheduling. I'll do my best to make this briefing item, per the name, brief. Got some great news to share with you this month. We have hit the 1 million ride mark for the first time since pre-COVID. If there was any time for applause, it would be now. So we've got some really great folks on our team. The planning scheduling team has done a great job implementing the Reinventing Metro plan. But our employees are not the only folks who are awesome. We also have some really awesome customers. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandy Jones for just a moment.
So meet Mala Escobar. She is our 1 millionth rider. So we were super excited to share that news with her. And she was ecstatic to hear that. I believe her words was, "I never win anything." So she was, she was very happy. And we were glad to give her a 30-day pass and a bag full of all of the Metro swag that we had, and so she's been sporting that proudly. We asked her about her story, and she rides the Route 43 to work. She works at the Talbert House, and she began using Metro after her car had some issues. And she said that she was so glad that it happened because she really got to discover just how easy it is to use our service, how in her case reliable it is. And even after her car has been fixed, she has continued to ride our service. And so this is just one example of how when we make the improvements and we do the work and we make the awareness, that is working for our community. And so we are very happy that we were able to meet Ms. Escobar and to see that she's one of those testimonials of how great the experience has been. And we've made her a believer.
All right, so moving on to the next slide, you'll see that our total fixed route ridership for the month, again, we've hit the 1 million mark. That is significantly higher than just 1 year ago and since December. So as we talked throughout some of the other pieces of the meeting, some of this is due to the APC conversion, but a lot of this is due to just the fact that we're putting more service out on the street and we're growing in a time that a lot of places aren't. So the next slide shows our total fixed route ridership by month for the past 4 years. So in previous months, you saw this as 4 separate lines on top of each other. This is just a better representation to see sort of the trend where we've been and where we're heading. We've stretched it out. The vertical lines there delineate the years. And as you can see, we're continuing on a steady upward trend. Only more to come. And admittedly, we did not put this slide together. We stole this from APTA using some transit app data. But this is comparing ridership of SORTA to the national average, right? I mean this when I say we're one of the best agencies in the country, and here's some proof right here. We are consistently above the national average when it comes to ridership. So just wanted to steal that from APTA and share that with you all. Similar to the total ridership graph a couple slides ago, this is the average daily ridership by day type. So in January of this year, the average daily ridership was over 40,000. Keep in mind, we did have a couple of bad weather days in there. We'll get to those in a couple of minutes. But this number would have been even higher. Saturdays and Sundays are also on the rise. Besides the shift to APC, part of the Reinventing Metro plan has also been right-sizing our weekend service. We've been putting out more Saturdays, more Sunday service. We're increasing the span. We're not decreasing it like some other places are doing. And so this is just proof. The proof is in the pudding, as Howlett always says, that we're headed the right direction. So.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this all paid ridership?
So this is all ridership. I don't believe there were any free fare days.
Not the free days?
I believe we only had free fare during the snow emergency times.
Well, but throughout the year, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, this is all ridership.
All ridership.
Yes, yes.
So it is all, I don't know if I got the answer.
Paid or not paid?
Paid or
Correct.
not paid, that's what.
Yes, all ridership regardless of.
Paid or
of fare
not
type.
paid.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
is there a way to break out the paid?
We can, sure.
Yeah, I'm just curious, that's the revenue.
Sure, certainly look into that for you. Right. So as we continue, we decided to break out local and express. So for our local service, passengers per hour was 17.8. That's the highest since before COVID. The cost recovery was 9.9%, which is just about on target with our budget of 10%. And then the next slide shows our express KPIs. Our express passengers per trip is up to 7.3. That is off of our budgeted number, but that is up from last month. Last month was about 4.5. And then this just shows our on-time performance over the past rolling 12 months. We are at 80% in the month of January for both express and local, right around the 80% mark. And here we have our missed trips by month for the last 2 years. For the month of January 2023, we were down from December. January had 2,557 missed trips. Of that, 97% of those were due to no operator. And we operated 95.9% of all of our scheduled fixed route trips. And on the next couple of slides, you'll see just a little bit more breakout of those.
Wait, go back to that. What was your number on the slide? I thought you said 80.
I'm sorry, say
Yeah,
again.
the metric was a weekday daily average.
Okay.
And this is total cumulative for the entire month.
Got it.
So on the next slide, you'll see that the number of missed trips is broken out here by day of the month for the entire month of January. The two spikes you see there were the bad weather days or snow events that we had. Specifically, they were on a Sunday and a Wednesday, which is important as we go to the next slide. You'll see the number of missed trips by day of the week. Surprise or not, Sundays and Wednesdays were the highest. Again, those were the 2 days we saw those two spikes on the previous slide due to the snow events.
Are you saying it's the Bengals' fault? Don't answer that.
Next
Don't
slide.
answer that. Yeah.
Moving on to Access. So Access provided just over 14,000 rides in the month of January. That's 17% higher than we budgeted and 20% higher than the previous year. I just want to also point out that Sundays was significantly higher than last year. Again, part of the plan that you heard through Lisa's presentation that our Access mirrors our fixed route. The more service we put out, the more areas we go, the more hours we operate, the more access is available for folks to use. So again, a true testament to the work that we're doing here. And the ridership by month, just like fixed route, we take in that graph you used to see with 4 separate lines and put it in one continuous line. And you can see that we are on a positive upward trend, and that will continue to grow as we move through reinventing Metro in phases 3 and beyond. And here is our Access on-time performance, this month, or I'm sorry, January, Access operated 91.5% on time. And again, keep in mind that there was a couple of bad weather days in there. And I believe the last slide I have for you, our cost per passenger was $53.90 in January. That's $1.10 lower than the budgeted amount. And we averaged 2.2 passengers per hour, which is right in at the target. And our cost recovery was 8%. And I know there are other KPIs in your board packets that show the more route by route information, but happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions on ridership performance?
Thank you all.
All right. Speaking about improving ridership, adding 2 large BRT projects might do that. Khaled, can you take us through these 2 action items together?
Yes. Thank you. It seems like just yesterday we started the BRT study, and now we're here requesting the board approval to submit these 2 letters. But just to put things in context, the BRT, right now we're doing the alternative analysis for the BRT bus rapid transit study, which looked at the 4 corridors. We picked the 2, Hamilton as well as Reading. And this is That's the first stage out of 4 stages for doing a BRT or implementing a BRT system. So once the agency does its due diligence in selecting the corridors and the alignments of these corridors, location of stations, the next step that is required by FDA, if we want to use federal money to build, the BRT, then we have to follow. So we have to follow this particular step, which is we have to submit letters, which are these 2 letters, to the FDA, asking them and getting their permission to enter into the what we call project development phase. So they will look at the study that we're currently completing, look at the findings, everything, how things were done, the outreach that was done, public involvement, analysis, and so on. And if they're, fine with that, then they will give us the green light to enter into project development. Project development is the design of the BRT, meaning where the design of the stations, the architectural engineering, if we're going to take right-of-way, where that, what kind of infrastructure improvements, intersection improvements, signal system changes, all of that, as well as acquiring the buses, all of that is part of the project development, which could take about 1.5 to 2 years. And with that, if we're approved for grant money, then we can use the grant money to pay for all of that project development. Once project development is done, we enter into construction and then obviously operations. So the intent of these 2 letters is to request from FDA to review what we've done so far and give us the green light and authorization to enter into project development. If we don't do that, we could still get into project development, but then we have to pay all $300 million out of our own pockets. So, so with that, I'm sorry, I keep losing my.
17 million come from?
The part that Larry talked about earlier today.
Of that 140 million.
Of that, okay.
Some of that is set aside already, is there because of this. Right?
Okay.
Yes. So that's part of the planning, financial planning for the organization, is to make sure that we have this money set aside. And this is kind of a big deal for the FDA to make sure that we do have the money. So with that, the staff request approval of resolution authorizing the CEO, general manager, or the designee to submit the letter of intent to FDA and to approve the expenditure. I'm doing both at the same time?
Yes.
Okay. And approve the expenditure of $17 million to cover the project development for the Hamilton Avenue corridor and $19 million to cover the project development for the Reading Road corridor.
And again, once we're successful in getting grants, the money that we've spent can go for the money the grant dollars can go toward the money we've already spent.
Yeah, the phrasing here makes me uncomfortable. So this says spending 17 million for project development. Don't you mean we need to put a reserve in so we can apply for the grants? What am I authorizing spending right now?
Yeah. So once the FDA gives us the green light, and we can start spending our own money on project development. Once the grant is approved, then we'll get reimbursed for whatever we've spent on the project development. Because approving a grant approval could take another, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, and then we'll be losing time. So
Well,
as
we're not
long
going to spend $17 million in the next 8 months.
No, we won't. But at least we need to show the FDA that the board is setting aside this money that we have.
This is the local match money, basically, or this is actually the full project development.
It could end up being a local match for the entire cost of the project. Yeah.
But to be clear, the board is not approving the actual expenditure for a vendor to do this work.
Right. The language here throws me off a little bit. To approve the expenditure of $17 million, we're not approving you spending $17 million.
No.
Correct. Yeah, we're not, because we don't have,
We have to bring that back to the board.
I know, but that's what this says. So I'm uncomfortable with the language.
This is what the FDA requires us to do.
They require this language?
Yes.
But it's inconsistent. It says approves the expenditure of 17 million And then down below, it says, set aside 17 million.
Yeah. If you're more comfortable with the wording of set aside or put in reserve, we can change that.
I am more comfortable with that, because I think if we don't get we're not going to spend $17 million here. So
Correct.
on this part. So I don't know how to make that consistent, but I feel like this isn't. Am I crazy?
Nope, you're not
Yeah.
crazy at all.
So
Not for this reason.
So
Yeah.
let's ask the board to approve the set aside. Let's also call the FTA and make sure the FTA is comfortable with that as well.
Will do.
And we'll report on that at the board meeting.
Yeah, that works for me.
So the amendment, requesting the board to approve it with the amended changes
Yes.
of the language to.
What we can
Set
do
aside.
today is move it on to the full board, off consent agenda, and have it amended and
Perfect.
addressed at the full board meeting. If there's still discomfort, we'd have to wait, which I don't think people want to do, so.
And let's get on with the FTA
Yeah, we'll
now
do that.
to make sure they're comfortable with what we're doing.
Okay, will do.
I get it's a little bit circular, right? But
Craig, can you move that we pass this on and put
I
in
move
your
that we
note
pass these two on, right?
with,
What they meant.
Subject to.
Subject to the amendments for understanding how the right language for the FTA without committing us to spending $17 million and $19 million.
Okay.
properly moved? Any other questions or concerns?
How long does it take for the FTA to give us the green light to move
I
forward?
do understand.
Is that like 3 months, 6 months?
I wish I can answer that question. It could take, from what I was told, it could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, sometimes 8 months.
Start all over again.
Yeah.
I do understand.
All right, we would need a second.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say left. Any abstentions? All right, so we're good to go with that. Looking forward to the changes at the full board meeting. All right, now we've got a few other procurement items. John, did you want to take us through those? Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
First, you'll notice a little bit of a change for our procurement action item presentations. Hopefully, we're providing a little extra information on the background for why we're asking for procurement action items, and hopefully that'll help speed the process along and answer some questions proactively for you. So our first challenge today is Metro seeks to kind of maximize the exposure and impressions for our operator recruiting video advertisement that's currently in circulation. Several gas stations in our service area do provide a medium for airing of advertising videos. Via Media happens to be one of the sole provider of video advertising opportunities for that greater Cincinnati area gas pump opportunity. So the solution that we came up with, obviously with our marketing partners, is to issue a sole source award to Via Media for the placement of operator recruiting ads. We've engaged Via before for placement of such ads, usually on a month-by-month basis as ads become, or as videos become ready for deployment. This is a 12-month engagement that will take us through, or technically an 11-month engagement that will take us through the end of 2023. We're asking for approximately $180,000 to go ahead and deploy these video ads, this operator recruiting video ad on gas station pumps in the greater Cincinnati area for that entire period.
This is local funding, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so we have an option to add a diversity or compete, a competitive.
There is no other vendor that offers placement of the video ad on gas station pumps. Via Media is the only one.
I would really feel comfortable if that statement was in there as to why. You just made a statement that.
It is. It's
The last
Via Media is
sentence
the
at the
sole
top.
provider of video advertising.
Yeah, yes, but why? And you just said this is the only one that could put something on a gas pump or gas station.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that would help me be more clear when I'm voting on this, that's the reason why.
Yeah. But what don't you like about that last sentence?
I'm just saying, this is the only one. I mean, put something in there that indicates this is why this is sole source, this is the one company that can do that.
Sure, and if, again, just trying to understand how to address your concern, The last sentence of the challenge statement is that Via Media is the sole provider of video advertising opportunities on Cincinnati area gas pumps.
Okay.
So help me, if you could, help me understand how that.
I mean, you stated it, and I want to be able, that's going to be a public statement, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Do you think this will yield operators? I mean,
beg your pardon?
obviously we do, but $180,000 at gas pumps. What are we going to get out of it? What's the return?
We're trying everything.
Okay,
We're turning over every stone.
that's what I thought. Thank you.
Do you have, I mean, is this a
It
12-month? It feels like a lot of money to me too, for, but I don't know.
Right.
Is there a way to do it for a quarter, or is that, they don't do that, or?
Of course, there is. We've been doing it month to month with Via Media sporadically throughout the last several years. This was an opportunity for us to kind of take advantage of price breaks for bulk purchases and just kind of secure the space for a
And
longer
we're
period.
comfortable that, do we have anything that says, to Blake's point, that has driven recruitment?
I do not have any feedback. I can defer you over to our Human Resources Department, our Marketing Department.
I'm just curious, how many times do you read the scroll on the pump?
Well, I mean, we ask people how they heard about us, right?
I just want to get my gas and get out of there because it's $4.50. Yeah.
So was that, we're trying, I don't know who you pushed that to, Dave, or?
Dave
that's
Etienne is our
okay.
project manager for the advertisement.
Well, I can address that, as Daryl said, we are attempting to use every media at our disposal to reach an audience of potential bus operators. One of the things, do I need a microphone?
We can't.
Yes, one of the things that John mentioned is we have used this media in the past. When you purchase on a month-by-month or even a quarterly basis, you pay a much higher rate. I think John actually has in the action item the cost breakdown of the difference. The other issue is with the tight labor market, everybody is using every available media. So often there's an availability issue. You might want to use a particular media, but it's already been locked down.
But I think the question was, do we have any proof that this is a successful?
Well, I get reports on visibility in terms of how many people, how many impressions they made. I would probably defer to Adrian about, do we request when people apply, how did they hear about it?
Yeah, but it doesn't get a specific ads from a gas station advertising. It'll just say advertising or social media or a friend. I mean, we could probably break it down on our application a little bit more, but it doesn't get down to that level.
I will say that this particular company has contracts. They've locked down the greater Cincinnati area. So they're in northern Kentucky, southeast Indiana, and southwest Ohio. So we're reaching the broad market that we draw our current employees from. And, one of the things when we get somebody that comes in through a gas station ad, they don't have to worry about getting their initial motor vehicle license. They've already got that. And I do know from talking to HR that we do get some people that don't even have a driver's license when they come in here.
They're pumping their own.
So,
Yeah, okay. Thank you
Okay,
very
do
much.
anything. I got open mind.
John?
Be as creative as you can.
Are you gonna go through all these items? Is that the intent?
Unless you just want to prove them all as is.
Well, we'll see. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on. Before we move off this, could I just say one thing? And this is, I mean, I don't want to change anything on this particular one, but just to kind of add on to what Gwen was saying, when we've got a non-competitive sole source, I really would prefer to have it in the actual resolution versus just the supporting document, why that's a non-competitive sole source.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just would like it in the document that we're voting on. If we're going to not put something out to bid, I want to be real clear on why.
Understood.
Other than just saying it's a sole. I mean, and I understand that it's, and I'm not suggesting we do anything different this morning, just going forward.
Great.
Thank you.
Our goal is to one day not have to spend a whole lot of advertising dollars on a recruitment that will have enough operators.
And to not have sole source situations.
Yes.
Next up for your consideration is modification for our architectural engineering services for bus washer replacement. The bus washer systems at Queensgate and Bond Hill, are beyond their useful life, and they are in need of replacement. We recently awarded a contract to R.E. Warner and Associates to help us with the engineering design work necessary to prepare the space for new bus washers, as well as make sure that the appropriate supply of water and electricity are routed the way that they're supposed to maximize efficiency of that service. When preliminary inspections began of the space to kind of prepare those drawings and prepare the space for the new washer, it was revealed that there is actually a greater degree of deterioration than originally believed. That level of deterioration will require some repair work, and that repair work will require engineering services to make sure that we address the repairs appropriately. The solution in this instance is to go ahead and just engage RE Warner, who's currently doing the work on the bus washer system and the bus washer areas, to allow them to develop the specifications and drawings needed for the deterioration repairs. We're asking, the original contract with RE Warner was $99,000 approximately, and we're asking to increase that by approximately $67,000 for a grand total of $167,000. RE Warner is a certified DBE firm, so this will increase our annual diversity spend by a commensurate amount, and this is to be paid for through local capital. Any questions? Okay. Next up is modification for transit planning software. As we've discussed earlier with ridership report, our previous ridership numbers were oftentimes calculated through the use of the GFI fare box. We've recently adopted some APC reporting, some APC technology. We've improved that APC technology as well, bringing it up to contemporary standards. Along with that APC technology is the need to collect and analyze ridership data collected by those devices. Currently, we are analyzing the data collected in a locally stored, server-hosted reporting function. The planning department has asked us to help them figure out a cloud-based solution needed to allow for some additional functionality, as well as tailored reports, automated report deliveries, a lot greater details in the data that's available through APC collection, and just overall analytical processes that can be increased through the cloud solution. We worked in with IT to make sure that we had the appropriate resources in place through Urban Transportation Associates, who currently provides our APC data analysis tools, to transition that from a locally hosted service to a cloud-based software as a service platform. Therefore, we'd like the opportunity to modify the contract with Urban Transportation Associates to transition that over to a full cloud-based SaaS platform. The original agreement with Urban Transportation was a little over $200,000. It was a 5-year agreement. We did pay for that all up front at one time. So we're 2 years into that 5-year agreement. We're asking for an additional $119,000 approximately for the next 3 years worth of services to make that transition over to a cloud-based platform.
Do we save anything by the work going away internally? Sorry.
I'm sorry?
So right now we're doing this internally. It's going externally to the cloud. Do we save any money on what?
There you are. Hiding.
Board, Steve Anderson for the record, Development Innovation. We're definitely saving staff time, Greg, because the amount of time, I'll give you an example. We extended service out to the Amazon on River Road. It would take a planner like 30 to 45 minutes to just pull time of day ridership. This does it in seconds. So we'll be saving staff time, as well as anything that happens internally. That becomes really kind of like an Amazon hosting situation where it's not our fault, their fault kind of thing.
Got it.
My question was just on when you put things on the cloud, there's, as far as I understand, there's typically increased security measures that have to take place. Does this cost include those security measures as well?
It does.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to remind the board that we are decades behind in technology, and unfortunately, when you get behind in technology, it costs money to catch up. We have not upgraded our technology here for decades, so you'll see in the coming months a number of technology upgrades. I mean, we've done nothing for decades. I like to remind the board in 2019, we got rid of our Windows 97 servers.
I remember.
I think that, at least speaking for myself, there's some uncertainty about that overall trajectory. I believe you, but being able to see all these investments, we're seeing a lot every month, and there's a growing anxiety about that spend, because of course we have BRT that we have to get done and all these other promises. So seeing that tech and how it relates would be helpful.
Some of them.
And maybe it'd be easier to digest too if we saw that as a deduction from the overall spend goal that we have for based on these things that we want to see. Do you know what I'm saying? That way we know, oh, okay, well, we're taking at this percentage of that.
These are all also built into our operating budget.
Yeah, just maybe just impact it.
Right.
Through a
I'm just.
Game plan. There you go.
I know you have one. I know you have one.
It's always good to check employees' backgrounds. We need to do more of that?
Usually.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Hey, sometimes gets away hiring.
So HR came to us and said, hey, we have a recruiting challenge. And the recruiting challenge is our recruiting efforts has actually increased hiring of more employees across all of our functions, not just our operator base. Pre-employment background checks are a required part of our recruiting effort, our hiring process. And they were burning through their allotted budget of pre-employment background checks a little faster than anticipated. This is a good problem to have, much more than anything else. So as a result, they would like us to help them figure out how to pay for more background checks. And the easiest solution for us was to go ahead and increase the funding for pre-employment background checks via contract modification with ClearStar Incorporated. The original contract amount for ClearStar was $131,000. And that contract was originally set to expire in May of 2023. We're asking today the board to increase that contract value by $46,000 to $177,000 and extend the termination date from the end of May 2023 to June 2023. This will allow us time to prepare a solicitation for the competitive marketplace to see if there are any other opportunities for us to increase our efficiency in the background check space. There was, again, with being contract modification, there was no diversity goal originally set for this contract award. Therefore, there'd be no impact to our current FY23 diversity spend, and is paid for all by local operating funding. Questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
This is not to exceed, saying that we're fully spending all this?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
This is just a not to exceed. We are not necessarily spending $46,000 on background
That's
checks in
correct.
the next
This is an
3 to 4 months.
IDIQ contract. We're not 100% sure how much
Okay.
we're going to spend, but we want to make sure we're forecasting effectively.
Great, thank you. Bus stop bench and ADA pad services.
Absolutely. So through our bus stop amenities program evolution, we have engaged several different vendors to help us analyze what our bus stop, what the traffic is at our bus stops, analyze what amenities need to go at each individual bus stop based on several factors, not the least of which is daily average boardings for that particular stop. And then on top of that, we have several transit stop amenities that have advertising capabilities. Most notably our shelters. There are several advertising shelters throughout the area. We had an agreement with AdSposure to sell and place advertisements at bus stops that had advertising capable shelters. Part of that agreement was the acquisition and installation of advertising capable bus shelters. AdSposure unfortunately did not fulfill that part of the agreement as effectively as we had hoped that they wanted to. So through some various contracting activities, we were able to acquire 27 bus shelters from AdSposure that they had purchased and put in storage but never installed. So we've now acquired those bus shelters, and we need to go ahead and get them installed. Each shelter will be installed within the city limits, requiring a vendor who's proficient in the RSP process. That can sometimes be a complicated process that, if not done properly, can significantly delay the activity of installing the shelter. So we wanted to make sure that the vendor was proficient and knew how to get through that process quickly. We also need some additional funding under this bus bench installation contract for some anti-theft bolts for bus benches. Unfortunately, about 10 or 11 of those benches have been installed and stolen since they were installed. So we want to get some anti-theft measures in place to try to prevent that from happening in the future. And then this contract is subject to kind of the volatility of increases in raw materials such as concrete and things like that that are needed to properly install both benches and shelters at various locations. And we wanted to make sure that the contract had some contingency in place in the event that we see continued increases in the cost of those raw materials. So we're coming to the board today asking to modify our Pruce construction contract with an amount that allows us to install those 27 new bus shelters and anti-theft bus bolts for the benches that have been installed and will be installed in the future, as well as a little bit of a contingency to make sure that we can absorb price increases in raw materials should that happen in the future. The original Pruce contract was approximately $2.1 million. We're asking the board today to allow us to increase that by approximately $500,000. This is a 5-year contract that will expire in December of 2023. The original contract had a 6.13% diversity goal attached to it. Pruce awarded 10.54% of the installation work to certified DBE subcontractors, and this will be paid for by local capital funding. Excuse me.
This became necessary because the city would not approve the benches for us to put in. The advertising vehicles contract was for the shelters and the benches to advertise in the shelters and the benches. Once the city would not approve the advertising benches, the contract was no longer good for them because they're losing all of the advertising for the benches. So as I've told the board before, we've been trying for 3 years to get the city to approve these benches. We're just going to go ahead and do them ourselves.
Okay. My concern is with the contingency funding, like $250,000 of just flex space on this. It seems like a lot. Am I wrong there?
Well, if we look at it over the span of the life of the contract, which is a 5-year contract, it really actually kind of narrows itself down a little bit more to where it's not quite $250,000 in a short period of time. It's about $50,000 per year that the contract is active. That allows us, again, to kind of absorb fluctuations in the cost of concrete, the cost of labor that we've seen kind of peaks and valleys over the last couple of years. So aggregate, yes, it's a pretty large number, but when you look at it on a year-by-year basis, it's pretty relative to the work being done.
And do we approve the use of the contingency, or is that more of a contractor's contingency?
That's actually kind of a project management function when we review the work that the contractor is doing, when they make requests to go over the budget amount that's actually in the contract itself. The contingency dollars are not reflected in the contract vehicle. Those are just a budgetary item that we use internally. In the event that the contractor comes back to us and says, hey, these things are costing 10% more, can we get some additional funding?
Thank you.
I got a quick one. On the benches, the status of the concrete benches at the cities, is that lawsuit over now with the city or still going on?
Still going.
Okay. And then whose responsibility, who'd be able to take away those concrete benches?
City of Cincinnati.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions on this? All right, we have a revenue one. I like
All right,
this.
yep, I've been spending a lot of money, now it's time to make some money. We have several Metro-owned right-of-way properties along the Oasis line that contain billboards that have been constructed to be used for advertising. Leasing that property to vendors who own and maintain those billboards is a revenue transaction. We currently have an ongoing long-term strategic relationship with Norton Outdoor Advertising. They are the ones responsible for constructing all of those billboards. They place all the advertisement collateral on those billboards. They maintain all of the area around those billboards for access. So we were asking for another opportunity to renew their current contract for another 5-year period. It's set to expire in March 2028. This will generate approximately $23,000, a little under $24,000 per year in revenue as a guarantee, which nets us approximately $119,000 over that 5-year term. Again, that's a minimum guarantee. The more advertising they sell, the more money they make, the more money we make on the project as well.
Questions? Moving
Awesome,
on.
love it. Garbage collection. Talk about luxury items for us to buy here at Metro. Garbage collection is high among them. These are standard business operations, requires collection of waste and recycling materials from all of our operating garages and our transit centers. This is an expansion of what our previous waste collection agreement was with Rumpke. We wanted to make sure we were collecting enough times during the week and from enough locations that actually generate quite a bit of waste and recycling. We did issue an RFP to determine the most cost-effective service provider, and Rumpke Waste and Recycling was the sole responder. There are not a lot of garbage collection agencies out there, unfortunately. Rumpke is one of the biggest in the country, so it made sense that they were the interested party. This is a 5-year contract that will set to expire in April of 2028. It's for approximately $268,000. There was no diversity goal assigned to that contract. It's paid for out of local operating funds.
Questions, concerns?
Next up.
All right, right away.
It's a contract for right-of-way appraisals. The challenge here was FTA required Metro to review and release all unused right-of-way property acquired with federal financial assistance. We lack the in-house expertise to perform accurate property appraisals. This is a critical requirement to selling real property for fair market value. So we worked with our planning department to issue a request for proposal to acquire property appraisal services. AECom was the selected vendor that resulted from that RFP process. We're asking for an award of approximately $562,000. This project is set to kick off immediately upon execution of the contract and will end in July of 2023. There was no diversity goal. However, AECom did return a proposal that awarded 15% of the contract value to certified DBE firms. This will be paid for out of local capital funds. And the award does actually increase our diversity spending up to approximately $1.9 million for FY23.
So the FTA has written us letters over the course of the last probably 8 or 9 years telling us to get rid of the rail right-of-way that we own since we're not using it. And at one point in time, you could take the dollars that you sold the rail right-of-way for, and you could ask the FTA if you could use it for other projects. Last year, they changed the law that money has to be returned to the FTA. The FTA is requiring us to do this. So this rail right-of-way that we bought was bought with almost 100% federal money. One of the things we are going to ask the FTA is this money we're spending to evaluate it, can we take that out of the money we have to give back to them when we sell this right-of-way?
That last statement is complicated there.
Yes, it is very complicated. But I believe it was year before last, they sent us a very strong letter saying, we told you 8 years ago to sell this rail right-of-way. Why haven't you done it? And the way the FTA works, we have to sell it for what it's worth. And the only way to figure out what it's worth is you have to do the evaluation on the rail right-of-way. This rail right-of-way was bought in the early 90s for passenger rail, and we told the FTA we were buying it for passenger rail. We have not used it for passenger rail, so they're requiring us to get rid of it.
So will we be selling it like back to the railroad?
We'll sell it to anybody who will buy it. Some of it is contiguous, some of it is non-contiguous.
Yeah, right.
And-
Who's gonna want that?
Who
We're
wants to
spending
buy
$500,000 for $500,000.
Yeah,
on
right.
The
land
railroad has shown some interest
Okay.
in some of the rail right-of-way that rail is running on, but there is a lot of this that is non-contiguous.
Yeah.
And there is even some of it that doesn't have rail on it.
Yeah.
And just to remind everybody, there are 3 corridors, the Oasis, Blue Ash North, and Blue Ash South. Some of it is contiguous, as Darrell said, some isn't. Some is already used by some of the railroad. Some of it is not. Some of the right road doesn't even have tracks on it. So based on that last letter we received from FTA, we conducted a study a year and a half ago to look at what options we have. Because, one of these is about 16 miles, the other is about 9 miles, the other is about 5.6 miles. And we did the study that took about 6-7 months to complete, looked at all the alternatives that we have, the options, the parcels, and so on. And the final recommendation from that consultant was just, dispose of it, sell it, basically. And based on that, moving to this phase is we need to do that appraisal. So when we put it up for sale, we know exactly how much, these parcels are worth. Now, we'll be coming back to you probably in the next few months to do what we call review of appraisals, which is also required step by FTA. So you do the appraisals, then you need another company to verify all of these appraisals. So just keep that in mind.
Now, does Oasis still run on the track?
Correct.
All right, and they don't own it?
No, we own it.
Right, remember we had that
Yes.
big issue, okay.
Yes, and we're paying for maintenance on the bridges.
Absolutely.
And make this whole thing come full circle. The billboard contract that we just talked about, these are billboards on the rail right away.
On the rail.
And they're not generating a lot of revenue, but we're having a lot of expense associated
Right,
with the
so
rail right away that we own.
Is Oasis wanting to buy it?
At this point in time, for the bicycle path, no.
No.
We are still in conversations with the city. and the county of what to do with that, with the bicycle path.
Right.
And that will be coming back to the board as we
Right.
get further down the road.
And
The
part-
city is still negotiating with the railroad on the easement.
Right.
Okay.
And
There's a
part
lot
of
to be
this,
said on this topic, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of concern, and it's $600,000 to get an appraisal of
Yes.
something that we're uncertain about the value of, and if there are buyers.
That's correct.
My gut is that's not a consent agenda item. So I'm going to say something about all these items in a second, but let's get motor oil on, and then we can talk.
and if I'm correct, this is not to exceed 562.
That's correct. Okay, final contract up for consideration is an award for bulk motor oil. Again, pretty self-explanatory. We require motor oil for all of our fleet vehicles, revenue vehicles in particular. However, require a unique formula for safe and continued operation of each vehicle. We did issue an invitation for bid to determine where we could acquire oil from the lowest responsible bidder. The selected bidder in this instance is going to be Petro Choice. The award there is a little over $318,000. This is a one-year contract that will expire at the end of February of 2024. There was no diversity goal established for this, this particular contract, and it will be paid for out of local operating funds.
Great, thank you. Any questions on oil? All right, my understanding is that we can entertain these as a group and move them on as part of the consent agenda. But anything we want to keep off, and we should identify first. I think the operator recruitment video, the bus stop bench and ADA pad services, and the right-of-way appraisal are all items that we could discuss individually at the full board meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and move the bus wash, transit planning software modification, background check modification, revenue for the right-of-way, the billboard, the garbage collection, and the motor oil. Can we move those for consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved, second? Second. Great. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. All right.
For the new members on the board, there should be probably some history of the rail.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
You're totally right. So if we could cover that in the board meeting, 600,000
Yeah.
for appraisal, that has to be done. Now, these other three items, the recruitment video, could we get a motion to entertain that separately?
So moved.
And second? Probably moved and seconded. We will move the recruitment video on as an independent item. Then bus stop bench and ADA pad services. I heard a move. Second?
Second.
All right. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say left. Any abstentions? All right. And then the right-of-way appraisal, independent item.
So moved.
So moves. Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say left. All right. Any abstentions? Any new business? Did I rush through that voting too quickly? Is there anything anybody wanted to bring up? All right. So we're going to consider those three separate items in the full board meeting. And then the other ones as a consent agenda, I will go through all of them at the full board meeting. Thank you very much. Chelsea, did you have something?
Modification, washer, and shelters, and what else was it?
The right-of-way appraisal, the bus stop bench and ADA pad services. That's at least how I have it in my notes. And then the operator recruitment video. Thank you. All right. I think we're adjourned. Thanks for your sticking through this, everybody.
Appreciate it.
We're doing a lot.